This old lady Luo is not a relative, and she doesn't know her very well. It's incredible that she suddenly trusts her so much. But she has encountered these things such as portable space and time travel, so it should be normal to have a bit of the protagonist's aura. Anyway, old lady Luo is in Jing City. When she goes to Jing City in the future, she will look for her and do something within her ability to repay her. After checking the house, Xia Huanhuan locked the door and went to the place where she and Lu Caigo had agreed to deliver the goods. Although the new year was coming soon, the textile factory's production would not stop during the new year, so the canteen was naturally open for business. Recently, because of the supplies bought from Xia Huanhuan, the food in the canteen has improved a lot. Many workers and their families are sometimes too lazy to cook at home and go to the canteen to eat. Therefore, the canteen supplies are consumed much faster than before. Originally scheduled to be once every half a month, Lu Caigo has been asking for once a week. However, Xia Huanhuan did not agree. She now comes to the county town mainly by getting a letter of introduction under the name of Purchasing Goods from the Supply and Marketing Cooperative. Moreover, even if the Supply and Marketing Cooperative has been coming frequently during this period, it is not every time that she has the opportunity to go to the black market or find Lu Caigo. Now that the house has been bought, she will be able to go back and forth from the space in the future, so she can increase the number of times. Lu Caigo had no choice but to increase the amount purchased. Fortunately, it is winter, and although there is no air conditioning, it can still be stored. A whole fat pig is 200 jin, 50 jin of mutton, 300 eggs, 100 jin of white flour, 200 jin of sweet potato flour, 200 jin of corn flour, 100 jin of sweet potatoes, 200 jin of Chinese cabbage, 50 jin of winter bamboo shoots, 20 jin of mushrooms, 20 jin of black fungus, 50 jin of soybeans. After buying a few times, Xia Huanhuan lowered the price again, 1.6 yuan per jin for a whole pig, 2 yuan per jin for mutton, 8 cents per egg, 2 yuan per jin for white flour, 1.8 yuan for sweet potato flour and corn flour, and 1.5 yuan for sweet potatoes. Chinese cabbage is 8 cents per jin, 3 yuan for winter bamboo shoots, 5 yuan for mushrooms and black fungus, and 2 yuan for soybeans. The total is 614 yuan, and the 4 yuan decimal is eliminated, and the final deal is 610 yuan. Lu, the purchaser, came here with a cart to transport the goods. The fat pig was still alive. It was knocked unconscious by a hammer beforehand, and then its limbs were thrown on the cart. This was mainly because they were afraid that the pig's scream would attract attention. After the goods were loaded, they were covered with a large piece of tarpaulin and transported to a vacant house that had been found in advance, and then transported to the textile factory at night. People were coming in and out of the textile factory in broad daylight, but they dared not transport goods in openly. Otherwise, they would be reported by people who harmed others and did not benefit themselves, and the factory leaders who turned a blind eye could not protect him. Lu Caigo was actually curious. He didn't know how the seller, a delicate woman, could transport so many goods without anyone noticing. Anyway, every time he came, the seller arrived first, and the goods were neatly placed on the ground. But he didn't bother to ask. It was most likely a second-hand dealer, and there must be other helpers behind her. It was just that the woman was exposed because she was not easily suspected. But she had the ability to take risks to collect the goods and sell them to him. The price was much cheaper than other black market prices. He didn't suffer any loss at all, so why did he care how she got them? Xia Huanhuan put 610 yuan into the space and circled several times in the dark alleys before returning to the supply point of the Supply and Marketing Cooperative, meeting Director Zheng, and taking a bullock cart back to town. From the town to Qingshui village, Xia Huanhuan had not bought a bicycle yet, so she walked back. Through the space, she can now freely go from home to town, and then from town to home. But there are many people who know her here, and it is more or less risky to teleport directly back home, so she does not plan to use space teleportation between town and home unless there are special circumstances. Fortunately, Xia Huanhuan did not use it, because what she didn't know was that a figure had been following her since she left the town and walked towards Qingshui village. The road between the town and Qingshui village was not remote, but it got dark early, and it started snowing again in the afternoon, so the villagers who came to the town to buy goods returned to the village early. It was now past 4 o'clock, and there were no more people on the road. Xia Huanhuan braved the wind and snow, walking with 1 foot deep and 1 foot shallow. She regretted that she had stayed in the county town for too long, and thought in her heart that she might as well use the space to go back directly. She was used to walking on this road, and there was a lot of wind and snow, and her ears were full of whistling wind, so she didn't notice that someone was following her. When they walked to a place close to the grove, the figure who had been following her suddenly accelerated and rushed behind her, hugged her waist with one hand, and quickly covered her mouth with the other hand. Woo woo woo. Xia Huanhuan was shocked, but it was too late to resist. Even if she wanted to escape into the space immediately, she needed to touch the birthmark on her wrist to enter the space. Her hands were also tightly held by the man's arms, and she couldn't move at all. The other party was obviously a man, very strong, and had the upper hand, so she couldn't break free at all. Moreover, the hand covering her mouth held a handkerchief soaked in medicine. Ancient knockout drugs? Are you kidding? She must have traveled to the 1970s. How could there be such a thing? But no matter how incredible it was, facts still speak louder than words. Even if she held her breath immediately, the liquid she just inhaled still took effect, causing her strength to drain rapidly. The man didn't speak all the time. Xia Huanhuan looked over from the corner of her eyes and could only see that the other person's head was covered with a black cloth, and she couldn't tell who it was. She was dragged into the grove next to her involuntarily, leaving 2 traces on the snow. The snow had stopped at some point, but the wind was still strong, and there was no one on the road. Xia Huanhuan tried to hold her breath to prevent herself from inhaling more potion, and at the same time gave up struggling, in order to create the illusion that she had been knocked unconscious. Now she was powerless. If she wanted to fight back and save herself, she only had one chance. That was to take advantage of the other party's relaxation of vigilance and then fight back directly. At worst, she didn't care that the space was discovered and hid in the space first. She was dragged into the grove and thrown to the ground. Ugh. Xia Huanhuan was knocked unconscious, but she still wanted to touch the birthmark on her hand as soon as possible. Unfortunately, before she could touch it, her wrist was grabbed and dragged more than 1 meter away to a tree trunk that was about one person's arms thick. The man untied his belt, made a noose, put it on one of her hands, went around the uncle's trunk, and tied Xia Huanhuan's other hand. Xia Huanhuan lost her strength and her consciousness was a little fuzzy, but the alarm bells were still ringing in her mind. This way of tying was equivalent to tying her hands separately, so they couldn't touch each other at all. Then she couldn't touch the birthmark on her wrist, which meant that she couldn't even escape into the last retreat space. What should I do? Xia Huanhuan bit her lower lip hard, clenched her fists tightly, and dug her nails into her palms, trying to use the pain to force herself to stay awake. The man Xia Huanhuan, and seeing that her struggle was weak, he began to tear off his pants impatiently, and then knelt down. Xia Huanhuan opened her eyes and kicked the man between his legs. Although her strength was lost, she had only inhaled 2 sips of the potion, and the kick still had some power. In addition, the man was not wearing anything now, and Xia Huanhuan's kick was accurate. Ugh. The man was kicked and slid back several steps, hunched over, and curled up on the ground for a long time without being able to get up. Xia Huanhuan began to desperately try to break free from the restraints on her hands. As long as her hands were free, she could escape into space. But the man soon came over, enduring the pain, slapped her in the face, and cursed. "You witch! You dare to kick me? I'll kill you!" Xia Huanhuan was hit so hard that her face turned away, her head was buzzing, but she still noticed the voice. It was a little familiar, but she couldn't remember who it was for a while. Before she could remember, her mouth and nose were covered by a handkerchief again. This time, the man was obviously alert and covered it for 4 or 5 minutes before letting go. No matter how hard Xia Huanhuan held her breath, she couldn't hold it for 5 minutes. Although she struggled hard, She was forced to inhale the potion and soon fell into a coma. The man panted heavily and then angrily took off the black cloth covering his face. It was Su Jiayuan, or who else? He looked at the unconscious Xia Huanhuan with a sinister and lustful look, gritted his teeth, and sneered. "Ha! In the end, you still fell into my hands and became my woman?" Unfortunately, after trying for a long time, he found that the kick he just received was much more serious than he had imagined. He thought about it again, but the thing didn't work. Su Jiayuan began to get scared. If he didn't go to the doctor quickly, he might be really crippled. The meat was at his mouth, but he couldn't eat it. He looked at Xia Huanhuan unwillingly and finally gritted his teeth, got up and walked out of the grove. "Let's go to the doctor first and find a chance later." Halfway through, he turned back and looked at Xia Huanhuan viciously. Then he leaned over and tore Xia Huanhuan's cotton jacket, revealing the close-fitting belly band and snow-white skin inside. Su Jiayuan actually had the intention to kill her for a moment. But after thinking about it, he asked his family to find connections and bribed the staff of the Youth League office in the county. His quota to return to the city has been determined, and he will be assigned to the town after the new year. If he was killed at this time, his whole life would be at stake. For an unscrupulous village woman? Even if he really liked her, it was not worth it. But he was kicked so hard, it was impossible for him to let Xia Huanhuan go. Although this grove is on the side of the road, it is still quite hidden. Even if someone finds her and comes to rescue her, seeing that her clothes are disheveled, they will definitely think that she is stealing wild men here, and her reputation will be ruined. If no one comes to rescue her, the temperature is at least -3 degrees now, and it will be even colder at night. If she freezes to death, it's her own bad luck. Su Jiayuan grinned twice, untied the belt that bound Xia Huanhuan's hands and tied it around his waist again, then walked away, without looking back. He didn't care about the footprints on the ground. After all, with the footprints of men, it would be more credible that Xia Huanhuan stole a man. Su Jiayuan hurried back to the educated youth point in Qingshui village, then took 10 yuan and ran out. When other educated youth saw him, they inevitably asked where he was going, but he ignored them. He was going to see a doctor in another commune. In his own commune, he was still afraid that this matter would be discovered. Li Zhan arrived in the county at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which was about the same time that Xia Huanhuan was attacked. The comrades at the county military liaison point were very enthusiastic and responsible and wanted to keep him in the county for one night and return to the village early the next morning. But Li Zhan refused because he was eager to go home. The county had no choice but to send a broken jeep to take him to the town. It was originally supposed to be taken to the village, but the car broke down as soon as it arrived in the town. It was still Li Zhan who helped to repair it. Seeing that there was not much gasoline left in the tank, the driver wanted to take him to the village again. Li Zhan was afraid that he would not have enough gasoline to go back to the county, so he did not let him go and walked back by himself. It was already dark at that time, but fortunately, the snow reflected the light and the road could be seen clearly. Passing by the grove, Li Zhan had already walked a few steps, but turned back. There were obvious traces of being dragged into the grove on the ground. If someone had hunted prey, they should have been dragged out of the woods, not into the grove. Li Zhan frowned slightly, took out his pistol and held it in his hand, and walked lightly into the grove. In this era, some hostile elements have infiltrated deeply, and it is hard to guarantee that it is not some desperate criminal who attacked a villager. Following the traces into the grove, it is easy to find a figure lying under a big tree. The snow on the tree crushed the branches and fell down, covering the person. Li Zhan quickly stepped forward. "Comrade, wake up." Before he finished speaking, his outstretched hand trembled violently, and his pupils contracted.
Juan. Juan?
Who else could it be if it wasn't his wife Xia Huanhuan, who was pale and unconscious in front of him? Looking again, Xia Huanhuan's shirt was torn open, and her skin was directly exposed to the sub-zero temperature. Li Zhan pursed his lips tightly, not caring about anything else, and touched her skin with his big hands, which was as cold as ice. Then he touched her breath, and his tense heart was slightly relaxed. She was still breathing. At that moment, he immediately brushed off the snow on Xia Huanhuan, took off his military coat and wrapped her up, then carried her on his back and walked towards Qingshui village at the fastest pace. Huan, don't be afraid. I'm back. I can definitely save you. It's okay. The night was dark, and the three little guys couldn't wait for Xia Huanhuan to come back, and they were so anxious that they were about to cry. Li Wen asked Li Wu to take his sister Beibei to his uncle's house, and he was going out of the village to look for her. He knew that Xia Huanhuan had gone to the town, so it must be right to look for her on the way from the village to the town. Zhou Qiuhe saw Xiaowu and Beibei coming over with red eyes and quickly asked about the cause of the matter and was a little confused for a while. She came back from town later than Xia Huanhuan. They had already reached home, but Xia Huanhuan hadn't come back yet. Could something have happened to her? After listening to Xiao Wu and Beibei, Li Jie walked out the door without saying a word, saying, "I'll go look along the road first. If I can't find her, I'll tell Secretary Zhao to gather the young men of the commune to look for her together. Although the more people look for her, the better. But if a young wife didn't return to the village late at night, if it got out, even if nothing happened, her reputation would be ruined." Although Li Jie was usually taciturn, he was surprisingly careful in this regard. If he couldn't find her, then he could only look for the commune. Zhou Qiuhe was anxious and stood up to follow. "I will go and look for him too." But Li Jie stopped him. "You will only make things worse if you go. Besides, there are so many kids at home. The adults are out. Aren't they afraid? What if they run out too? Won't it cause more trouble? And Xiaowen, this kid is too smart. It's dark outside. What if he gets lost?" Before he finished speaking, Li Jie had already left the yard. Li Wen didn't walk far, and Li Jie just walked to the entrance of the village and caught up with him. Li Jie scolded him and asked him to go home, but Li Wen was stubborn and insisted on waiting at the entrance of the village. Li Jie could only let him go and quickly disappeared into the night. Not even a few hundred meters away, he saw Li Zhan carrying someone on his back, almost half running towards him. After knowing that Li Zhan was carrying Xia Huanhuan, Li Jie immediately stepped forward to take Xia Huanhuan and carry her back to the village. Although he couldn't see clearly at night, he could still see that Li Zhan had been running for a while, panting, and his whole body was swaying. But Li Zhan dodged for a moment. His sharp eyes like a wolf preying on the grassland at night, he said in a hoarse voice, "Don't touch her. I'll carry her." Li Jie was frightened by the murderous aura emanating from Li Zhan, and it took him a long time to come back to his senses and responded, "Oh, then hurry up. I'm afraid my sister-in-law is frozen. Frostbitten." When they arrived at the entrance of the village, Li Jie didn't say much. He covered Li Wen's mouth first, then picked him up and quickly returned home with Li Zhan. Li Wen was sensible enough not to speak, but from time to time he looked at Li Zhan and then at Xia Huanhuan on his back with concern. Li Zhan and Li Jie tried to walk lightly as possible and returned home, without disturbing the neighbors. Fortunately, Xia Huanhuan had built a fence before, and the gate was on the other side, so even Lu Lan and Wang Guixiang were not disturbed. Zhou Qiuhe brought Xiao Wu and Beibei over immediately, but the two kids didn't dare to cry out loud after being signaled by the adults. Of course, part of the reason was that they were afraid of the aura emanating from Li Zhan at this time, so they widened their eyes in fear and hid behind their eldest brother Li Wen. Li Zhan put Xia Huanhuan on the bed, then turned around and said to Zhou Qiuhe, "Third sister-in-law, I need you to do two things. One is to boil some water for me now, and the other is to take care of the three little kids for us tonight and let them sleep in your room." Zhou Qiuhe was frightened by Li Zhan's cold and handsome expression. Although she had not seen Li Zhan many times, it was the first time she saw this always gentle brother-in-law with such a frightening expression.
Oh.
Okay, I'll boil water right away. I'll take care of the three little kids. You don't have to worry." After saying that, he almost ran to the kitchen to boil water. Li Wen was anxious and immediately followed to help. Xiao Wu and Beibei tiptoed, lying on the bed with fear and worry on their faces, and whispered, "Mom. Unfortunately, they were too small to reach the edge of the bed, even on tiptoe, let alone see Xia Huan. Li Zhan's face was cold, and he said in a hoarse voice, "Third brother, please take Xiao Wu and Bei Bei out first, and only let the third sister-in-law come in later." Li Jie did not dare to neglect it, and caught one in each hand, and took the two cubs out together with himself. To be honest, it was not just his wife who had never seen Li Zhan like this. Even he, the third brother who grew up with Li Zhan, had never seen Li Zhan, who was as dangerous and violent as a wounded wolf at this moment. Li Zhan took off the military coat wrapped around Xia Huan and took off her clothes in a few seconds, leaving only the small clothes close to her body. The skin, like moonlight, was icy to the bone, and it was more like transparent condensed fat, beautiful and breathtaking, but there was no trace of blood. Li Zhan quickly took off his shirt, and regardless of anything else, he hugged Xia Huan tightly in his arms and wrapped them up with the military coat. To save people in a low-temperature state, we can only try to restore their body temperature quickly. Li Zhan whispered in Xia Huan's ear, "Huan, my wife. It's okay. I'm your man back. I will never let you die." Li Zhan closed his eyes tightly and hugged Xia Huan tighter. There were some things he didn't say. If she really had something, he might violate the discipline and cut the gangster who dared to hurt her into pieces. After a while, Zhou Qiuhe boiled the water, knocked on the door, and dared to come in after getting permission. Li Zhan had already put on his shirt, but the buttons were buttoned in a mess, which still made Zhou Qiuhe blush. The wooden barrel bought before was quickly filled with hot water of moderate temperature. Zhou Qiuhe went to continue to boil hot water. Li Zhan picked up Xia Huan and put her in the barrel so that her body temperature could recover as soon as possible. After adding hot water several times, Li Zhan held her in the quilt to keep warm. It was not until the second half of the night that Xia Huan groaned in pain. Li Zhan's heart skipped a beat, and he called out in a trembling voice, "Huan." Xia Huan frowned. Her mind was still like a cloud, chaotic and hazy. Her body felt heavy, as if she was pressed down by a heavy object, and also as if she was next to a big stove, very warm. She struggled unconsciously for a few times, but was pressed tighter. She struggled again with some dissatisfaction, but suddenly felt the warm breath rushing to her ear and neck. Xia Huan's consciousness suddenly recovered a little. Her memory before coma revived. She remembered that she was attacked by someone. Could it be? Thinking of this, Xia Huan suddenly used all her strength to grab her hands and feet and kick, and seeing that her hands and feet were tightly entangled and could not move, she had to open her mouth and bite hard without looking. As long as the bite hurt this person and loosened the strength that bound her hands and feet, she could immediately hide in the space. Hiss! The man gasped in pain, but he just tried his best to suppress her and did not hide. A deep and magnetic voice came from her ear. Huan, it's me, Li Zhan. Don't be afraid, you're fine.
Li Zhan.
Her husband? Xia Huan raised her eyes. Her beautiful and clear pupils shrank slightly, and she looked at the man who was holding her tightly. It was indeed
Li Zhan. But
why was Li Zhan here? Did he save her? Did he catch the person who dared to attack her?
Who was that person?
Li Zhan's voice was a little trembling, on the one hand because he was still in shock and on the other hand because of the pain. While you are thinking, can you open your mouth first? Xia Huan was stunned for a moment, and then she realized that she was biting the flesh on someone's shoulder, like a little tiger. This was very embarrassing. Xia Huan blushed and quickly let go. Even so, Li Zhan's shoulder had been bitten with deep teeth marks, and some places were bleeding, which was horrible. Xia Huan. Just as she was about to apologize, she suddenly realized something even more embarrassing. Li Zhan was shirtless, and she wasn't much better, with just a red belly band. The lower part of her body wasn't much better from the feeling of her skin. What the Hades happened? Although Li Zhan was her man, it was only natural for them to do this.
But
wasn't Li Zhan injured in that area? Since she got married, she never thought that this would happen. She wasn't mentally prepared at all. Xia Huan took a deep breath, thinking about what to say in such an occasion, so as not to be embarrassed? Why didn't you ask for permission? The delicate version whimpered while punching someone with her little fist. You stinky hooligan. Get out. The female man version kicked the person off the bed. It was so embarrassing that she could dig out a 3-bedroom apartment with her toes. After holding it in for a long time, Xia Huanhuan decided to play ostrich. I'm so sleepy, Xia Huanhuan said in a vague and hazy tone with a guilty conscience. When Li Zhan woke up, she pretended that she didn't remember anything. The thing that woke her up tonight was that she was sleepwalking and talking in her sleep. She was a little afraid that Li Zhan would expose her trick on the spot, but unexpectedly, Li Zhan just raised his hand and gently touched her hair and said gently, "Well, you go to sleep. There are still a few hours before dawn." He didn't blame her for biting him. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but feel more guilty, and at the same time, she couldn't help but feel a little unconvinced. In their current situation, why is it that she is in a state of panic, while Li Zhan seems to be calm and not excited at all? Alas, it seems that his injury is true. Fortunately, she occasionally suspects that the rumor is a false rumor. With her eyes closed, thinking about these things, Xia Huanhuan actually fell asleep in a short while. Li Zhan was not as calm as Xia Huanhuan thought. He just had excellent self-control and tried to endure it. He was busy saving people in the first half of the night, and he was really focused and had no time to think about anything else. Only when he saw Xia Huanhuan wake up and still had the strength to bite him did the tension in his heart completely relax. In this way, even if the person in his arms moved a little or breathed a little on him, it would be like a feather tickling his heart. Fortunately, his wife was heartless. After experiencing such a life and death situation, she was able to fall asleep quickly. So, she didn't notice that he couldn't help but react afterwards. Li Zhan smiled bitterly twice, leaned over and kissed Xia Huanhuan's ear lovingly. Since he was injured on the Barren Mount, although he felt that the part where Xia Huanhuan appeared might just be an illusion caused by unconsciousness, and Xia Huanhuan came to Beijing to visit him, he no longer had the idea of not touching her in case he died, so that Xia Huanhuan could remarry. Even if his job was full of dangers and he could die at any time. But he should be more vigilant, do more training, and make himself stronger. Wouldn't it be enough if he didn't die? Xia Huanhuan is his wife. Why is he so generous that you have to push her away and give her to someone else? Therefore, it was only a matter of time before that happened. But it was not possible tonight. No matter how anxious he was, he could not be so beastly that he could not think about that matter even when his wife was injured and frightened. Well, he had to try to think of something else to divert his attention. The traces of dragging on the ground, the disheveled clothes when he found Huanhuan, and the marks of being tied on her wrists all showed that Huanhuan did not take the initiative to go into the woods with some wild man. She could only have been attacked. Moreover, the attacker was extremely vicious. He might have been angry and embarrassed because he did not succeed, and he actually left Huanhuan in the uninhabited woods like that. The reason why he was sure that the other party did not succeed was that Huanhuan had no other obvious injuries on her body except for the bruises on her wrists and frostbite. Fortunately, he woke up a little when he passed by and went in to check, otherwise Huanhuan might have been frozen to death. Fortunately, it was me who found her. If it was another man, Huanhuan would not be able to escape the clutches. This is a vicious man who is determined to destroy Huanhuan. Li Zhan closed his eyes and tried his best to restrain the hostility in his eyes. Dare to touch his woman? I guess she has made enough preparations, right? The next morning, after Xia Huanhuan woke up, she didn't dare to open her eyes immediately, but gurgled back and forth for a long time, making sure that there was no one lying next to her, and Li Zhan had gotten up before she dared to open her eyes. As a result, Li Zhan was not lying on the bed, but sitting at the head of the bed, waiting for her to wake up. Awake? Don't get up. I made millet porridge and baked 2 scallion pancakes. I'll bring them over and you can eat them in bed. Xia Huanhuan. It seems that the last time she went to Beijing, Li Zhan got up early in the morning and went to the cafeteria to get breakfast for her. As a daughter-in-law in the 1970s, she seemed to be quite unqualified. However, As a person who traveled through time from the modern era, Xia Huanhuan did not feel too guilty. She only blushed and said but did not refuse. While Li Zhan was in the kitchen, Xia Huanhuan quickly lifted the quilt and took a look. Just as she thought, her clothes were not put on yet. If she had not refused just now and rushed to get out of bed to go to the kitchen, it would have been even more embarrassing. She quickly put on her quilted jacket with a slanted collar. As soon as she buttoned it, Li Zhan came in with breakfast. The yellow millet porridge was cooked with white sweet potato cubes, and the scallion pancakes were orange and crispy, still steaming hot, emitting bursts of fragrance. In addition, there was a dish of pickled cucumbers and pickled spicy cabbage, as well as a portion of cabbage fried with bacon. The pickled cucumbers should be from Lubiju that she brought back from her trip to Beijing, and the pickled spicy cabbage was pickled earlier in the winter and placed in a large jar on the ground outside the front eaves. The bacon was probably the roe deer meat hanging on the eaves.
She is really not shy.
In the time it takes to make breakfast, she has already figured out everything in her room. After thinking about it, she couldn't help laughing. This is someone else's home. Why should she be shy? Do you want me to feed you? Li Zhan asked softly, worried that she hadn't recovered yet. Xia Huanhuan blushed and shook her head desperately, saying no. I'll eat by myself. Then he said, what about you? You haven't eaten yet, right? Come and eat together. Li Zhan hadn't eaten yet, so he went to the kitchen to get a bowl of millet porridge, pulled a stool to the bedside, sat down, and the two of them ate without talking for a while. Li Zhan was a professional habit. He didn't take care of it last night, so he got up early this morning and checked the inside and outside of the house and yard. It was also the basis of investigation. Seeing that there was enough white flour, coarse grains, meat, and vegetables in the house, he felt relieved. Although he gave the allowance to Xia Huanhuan, the country people were used to being frugal, so he was afraid that she would not dare to spend it, so he saved it all. After eating for a while, Xia Huanhuan suddenly remembered that she hadn't seen the 3 kids in the morning. As a mother, she just remembered that the 3 kids were not there. If they met bad guys, the traffickers would have run away long ago. Where are the 3 kids? Li Zhan replied, I asked my 3rd sister-in-law to help take care of them all night last night. They're still at my 3rd sister-in-law's house. Hearing this, Xia Huanhuan was relieved a little. After hesitating for a moment, she still asked softly, what happened last night? Why were you at home? She was determined to treat the incident when she woke up in the middle of the night as sleepwalking, so she had to make up a more convincing lie. In addition, her memory only went back to when she was bewitched in the woods. She was not sure whether she was rescued by Li Zhan later, how she got home, and why she slept in Li Zhan's arms with all her clothes taken off for a night. She could only ask tentatively. The only thing that was certain was that neither the gangster who attacked her nor Li Zhan should have really touched her. After all, although she had no experience before she crossed over, she had never eaten pork, but had she never seen a pig run? If she was really forced to do that, then her body would definitely feel different from now. Li Zhan looked up at her, but he did not hide anything, and said directly, on the way back, I found you in the grove. At that time, you were almost frozen and unconscious. I hurriedly carried you home. My 3rd sister-in-law and 3rd brother also helped. They gave you a hot bath and wrapped you in a quilt to restore your body temperature. He omitted the fact that Xia Huanhuan was disheveled when he saw her, fearing that if he said it, the two of them would have a rift. Anyway, he did not doubt her at all, so there was no need to say it. He also omitted the fact that he held her and used his body temperature to help her warm up. This was mainly because Xia Huanhuan deliberately pretended to be amnesiac and refused to mention that she woke up last night and bit him, fearing that she would be more embarrassed if she said it. It was Li Zhan who saved him. But from what he said, when he found him, the person who attacked him had already left, and Li Zhan did not meet him.
Who
was that person? She only remembered that the voice was very familiar, but she couldn't remember whose voice it sounded like.
And
should she tell Li Zhan about the attack on her by a man? Not to mention this era. Even in the modern society where she originally lived, you tell your husband that you were attacked by a man and dragged into the woods, but nothing should have happened. You're still innocent. Xia Huanhuan admitted that there are men who are generous and trust their wives absolutely, but most men will still feel resentful, right? She was a little annoyed and inexplicably didn't want Li Zhan to doubt her.
But
If she told it, and Li Zhan doubted her and felt resentful towards her, then she could see a person clearly earlier. At that time, it would be the most straightforward to divorce and part ways. Thinking of this, Xia Huanhuan raised her head, looked at Li Zhan without blinking, and asked, "When you saved me, did you see anyone? I was attacked by a masked man who made me inhale some potion and then dragged me into the grove." Now it was Li Zhan's turn to be stunned. He didn't expect his wife to be so frank about the attack. Being dragged into the grove by a man, whether voluntary or forced, is a fatal point for a woman's reputation. Rumors don't care whether they are true or false, and even false ones can be exaggerated to be true. Li Zhan was actually mentally prepared that Xia Huanhuan would lie to her about this matter and hide it from him for the rest of his life. However, Li Zhan's obsidian eyes sparkled and contained infinite tenderness and admiration. His wife is really different from other women. Restraining the impulse in his chest, Li Zhan shook his head and said, "No. The only traces found at the scene were that you were dragged into the woods, and there were a series of male footprints walking out of the woods." Xia Huanhuan. This. Fortunately, she did not hide it and asked directly. It turned out that Li Zhan had already guessed roughly what happened based on the situation at the scene. If she really lied, wouldn't it be like covering one's ears and stealing the bell? In addition, this man is probably a white-collar black, right? The key information was not revealed at all. Isn't this setting a trap for her to see if she will jump or not? But Li Zhan added, "I picked up a button, which must have been left by the man carelessly. No matter how concerned he was last night, he did all the necessary investigations. This button, of course, could not escape his eyes." Xia Huanhuan immediately took a look, and then returned it in disappointment. The button is just an ordinary black button, which could be on any man's clothes. However, there was another clue, that is, she must have kicked the gangster. From the fact that he later tried to knock her out but failed, he must have been seriously injured. She was familiar with the man's voice, so she could ask who went to the doctor to get medicine yesterday, and she could get something out of him. Xia Huanhuan hesitated, but still told Li Zhan about this clue. Of course, she didn't expect Li Zhan to help her get revenge. She had to get her revenge herself to get rid of her anger. If she hadn't used a cheap drug to make her lose her strength at the beginning, she would have beaten him to a pulp with her current skills. If she didn't catch him and make him pay a heavy price, she wouldn't be named Xia. When the two were analyzing the case, Zhou Qiuhe brought Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei in.
Mom.
Xiaowu and Beibei shouted excitedly when they saw Xia Huanhuan wake up. But just when he was about to take his short legs and rush to the bed, he was so scared when he saw Li Zhan that he hid behind his brother. Xiaowen was actually afraid too. Last night, Li Zhan looked as if he wanted to eat them alive, and he also drove the three of them to live at the third aunt's house. How could they not be scared? But he still bravely opened his arms to protect his younger brother and sister. However, the three little guys all looked at Li Zhan with timid eyes. Li Zhan was so depressed. Did he do anything bad? As for why these three little guys are so afraid of him, Xia Huanhuan on the side also noticed it and asked in some confusion, "What did you do? The three guys seem to be very afraid of you." She remembered that when Li Zhan came back on his wedding night last time, the three little guys were still very close to Li Zhan, their fourth uncle. Zhou Qiuhe looked at the three boys who were silent as a cicada, couldn't help but smile, and said, "What are you doing? Call someone quickly?" When the three brats heard this, they had to shout in a low voice, Fourth uncle."
Li Zhan's Motwisha.
Could this shouting be any more reluctant? Zhou Qiuhe was actually a little scared when she saw Li Zhan. Li Zhan's look last night was really scary. However, she was somewhat envious of Xia Huanhuan in her heart. Wasn't it because Li Zhan was worried about the safety of his wife last night that he became like that? Alas. I don't know if her man Li Jia would be so out of control if it was her who was unconscious last night. Huanhuan, it's great that you're awake. You don't know how anxious Li Zhan was when you were like that last night. Even your third brother has never seen your usually calm fourth brother like this before. He drove the three brats to our room, without saying a word. Xiaowu and Beibei asked me timidly last night if you didn't want them anymore. Xia Huanhuan blushed again when she heard that. But she also understood why the three little guys were afraid of Li Zhan, and she couldn't help but give him a reproachful look. Li Zhan also scratched his head a little embarrassedly. He didn't quite remember what he looked like last night, but he remembered that the string in his head was always tense. Zhou Qiuha had to rush to the supply and marketing cooperative in the town, so she sent the three little guys back early in the morning and said apologetically, "They have already eaten breakfast. I'm sorry you are in such a state. I should take care of you for a few more days." Xia Huanhuan immediately waved her hand and said with a smile, "Third sister-in-law, you can go with peace of mind. I'm fine." After Zhou Qiuha left, Xia Huanhuan waved her hand, and the three little guys dared to enter the inner room, their eyes still timidly observing Li Zhan and walking around him. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help laughing and shared the remaining scallion pancakes with them and said, "Isn't this your dear fourth uncle? Why are you so scared? Besides, your household registration is under the name of me and your fourth uncle. How could I not want you?"
Really? How old are you?
"You are just worrying about nothing." Li Zhan had never greeted the children much before. He felt unfamiliar all of a sudden and was a little helpless. He knew that he had to do something to eliminate the fear and alienation of the three kids. After breakfast, Xia Huanhuan got out of bed. Today is the 27th day of the 12th lunar month. According to the calendar and customs, it is the day to kill chickens and go to the market. Going to the market is fine, but killing chickens still has to be appropriate. Xia Huanhuan took the old hen out of the space the day before yesterday, tied its wings and feet, sealed its mouth, and threw it in the kitchen. It has been there for 2 days, and its stomach is almost empty. Li Zhan is back, so naturally, he has to do the job of killing the chicken. Li Zhan was not vague. He took the kitchen knife, cut the chicken's neck with a knife, and the chicken blood flowed into the bowl below, and then poured into salt water, and soon it can solidify into blood tofu, which is called blood curd in Sichuan, and is also a delicious dish. As for the old hen that has been drained of blood, boil water and use the boiling water to scald the chicken feathers, and it will be easy to remove the feathers. Then it is time to gut the chicken and take out the chicken offal. Li Zhan kills the chicken, Xia Huanhuan boils hot water to pluck the chicken feathers, and then Li Zhan cuts the chicken open, and soon the chicken is taken out. The chicken is hung outside in the sub-zero weather to keep it fresh, but the chicken offal and chicken blood tofu are planned to be eaten at noon. Stir-fried chicken offal with winter bamboo shoots and mushrooms, and blood curd with soybean sprouts. Just thinking about it makes me drool. There are too few types of vegetables in winter, and she used soybean sprouts a few days ago. They are orange, white, and tender and look pretty good. She has luncheon meat in her space, but it seems inappropriate to take it out.
Wait.
She remembered that when she was stockpiling supplies, she checked the brands. There was a mail-in brand of luncheon meat, which was produced in Shanghai and was still available in this era. Then she could take it out and eat it and say that she bought it when she went to the county town. But it was still early to make lunch, and Xia Huanhuan was thinking about visiting Aunt Wu's house and asking her if she had heard of any man in the village who suddenly felt unwell and went to see a doctor. The earlier you ask about this, the more reliable the news will be. Thinking of this, she grabbed 2 handfuls of bean sprouts in a small bamboo basket and said to Li Zhan, "You sit in the house, I'll visit Aunt Wu."
Li Zhan.
He rarely came back. Why didn't his wife bother him? And he was in the mood to visit. Xiao Wu and Beibei saw Xia Huanhuan was going out and immediately chased after her. "Mom, Beibei wants to visit too." "Mom, Xiao wants to go too." Xiao Wen is a little older now, and he doesn't feel comfortable chasing Xia Huanhuan to visit relatives. He carries his small backpack. I'm going to the commune to feed the wild boars." The 2 wild boars that Xia Huanhuan caught from the mountain last time were unanimously approved by Qingshui village to be raised. Qingshui village has to buy piglets to raise every spring, and a piglet costs dozens of dollars, or it has to be exchanged for grain of the same price. With these 2 wild boars, this expense can be saved.
Li Zhen.
Is he a scourge? Do you all have to hide from him? Xia Huanhuan said. The 3 of you stay at home and don't run around. Xiaowen, have you memorized the words I asked you to memorize the day before yesterday? Xiao Wu, Bei Bei, can you write your names? The 3 little guys lowered their heads guiltily when they heard this. Although they were very excited when they got the paper and pen at the beginning, thinking that they were going to start studying. But what child doesn't like to play? After a few days of novelty, their attention was attracted by other things, and their enthusiasm was not so high. The 3 little guys looked up at Li Zhan timidly, and then, under the leadership of Xiaowen, they hid from Li Zhan and went back to the house, took out their textbooks, paper, and pens, and started to do their homework. Xia Huanhuan winked at Li Zhan, meaning that he should take this opportunity to quickly repair the relationship with the 3 little guys, and then went out. Li Zhan scratched his head, looked back at the 3 little guys who were still distant and afraid of him, sighed, and resignedly walked to the table to see what they were writing, waiting for an opportunity to win back their trust and closeness. What Xiaowen had to recite were common things in the countryside, with more than 10 words, such as wheat, cabbage, chicken, eggs, dumplings, etc., which were quite down to earth. Xiaowen could recite most of them, and bit the pen tip in distress for the rest. Xiaowu and Bei Bei had their own names. Bei Bei was confused and played with the pen more than studied, but he still wrote his name crookedly. Xiaowu was in a worse situation, as his name had many strokes, and he could never remember it. Seeing that his sister Bei Bei, who was 1 year younger than him, could write her own name, he couldn't help but break down and cry. I don't want to be called Xiaowu anymore.
It's too hard to write. Wow. Li Zhen.
How can you cry for this? He walked over and picked up Xiaowu. Xiaowu was so scared that he didn't dare to cry immediately and stared at him in a daze.
Let me see.
What about the word Wu? Does it look like a person holding a spear? This is a human head, although it's a little flat, the hand needs to be stretched out, the spear is a little bent, and below is the body of the little man. Xiaowu's sight shifted from Li Zhan's face to the paper. Through Li Zhan's explanation, the originally complicated word Wu became a lot more interesting, as if he could remember what it looked like all at once.
I
want to write it too. Xiao Wu was so anxious that he wanted to take up the pen and carefully drew a little man holding a spear. Even Xiao Wen and Bei Bei were attracted. Li Zhan smiled and said, Look, you can write it now, right? The word Wu means strong and powerful. When Xiao Wu grows up, he can protect his mother. Why don't you like it? When Xiao Wu heard this, his eyes were full of stars. Really? Then I will call you Xiao Wu from now on. I will protect my mother when I grow up. When Bei Bei heard this, she was so envious that she didn't care about being afraid. She ran to Li Zhan, grabbed Li Zhan's fingers with her little hands and shook them, and asked eagerly, Then,
what about Bei Bei?
Isn't Bei Bei's name very powerful too? Li Zhan's heart almost melted when he was stared at by this little guy. He picked up Bei Bei and sat him on his lap and smiled. Bei Bei. Well, it's a small shell on the beach. It's very beautiful, like stars in the sea. It means Bei Bei will be very beautiful when she grows up. Xiaowen blushed, and at this time there was no more stubbornness to protect his younger brothers and sisters. He also asked expectantly, Then, what's my name? Wen means smart and knowledgeable. Xiaowen will definitely be able to go to college in the future. After a while, the 3 little guys forgot their fear of Li Zhan and insisted on pestering him to tell them stories. When Xia Huanhuan arrived at Aunt Wu's house, she first asked with a smile, Is Aunt Wu at home? Aunt Wu responded and came out. When she saw Xia Huanhuan, she couldn't help but smile. Oh, it's Huanhuan. Come in quickly. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, I used soybeans to sprout some soybeans a few days ago, but I didn't pay attention to the amount, so I sprouted a lot more. I couldn't eat it all, and it would be a waste to leave it, so I sent some to you, Aunt. Aunt Wu felt embarrassed. Oh, these soybean sprouts are so fresh. I'm so embarrassed to always eat your food.
Xia Huanhuan smiled. No.
It doesn't matter who I give it to. Besides, didn't you give me some dried chilies last time, Aunt Wu? After a few more casual words, Xia Huanhuan led the topic to the question she wanted to ask. However, she certainly couldn't just ask straight away if there were any men injured in the village, so she moved her neck and said with a smile, "Oh, I got a stiff neck last night, and my neck hurts so much. I was thinking of going to the village Dr. Lu to ask him to prescribe a plaster, but I was afraid that he would be too busy to take care of my minor illness." Aunt Wu thought for a while and said with a smile, "Go ahead, he's too idle. I met him chatting at the entrance of the village last night." Xia Huanhuan frowned slightly. Too idle? It's impossible not to see a doctor for such a serious injury, right? Or maybe they didn't dare to look at it in this commune, fearing exposure. This also further confirmed that he was from this commune. She must know him. When she was worrying about how to ask next, Aunt Wu suddenly came closer and said in a low voice, "I want to tell you something. Don't think I'm gossiping." Xia Huanhuan heard this. Then she smiled and said, "Look at what you said. Don't I know what kind of person you are? You wouldn't spread something that you are not sure about, right?" Aunt Wu smiled and said, "That's right," and then continued in a low voice, "This matter is related to your sister-in-law. Early this morning, someone saw your sister-in-law Li Qiao sneaking to the Educated Youth Point, and then took a few men's dirty clothes home to help wash them. I heard from those educated youth that the clothes seemed to belong to an educated youth named Su Jiyuan." Xia Huanhuan's heart trembled.
Su Jiyuan?
The original owner was deceived by him to escape marriage and was almost by him, but after she crossed over, except for the time when she ran into him and Li Qiao in the woods, she had no more interactions with him.
Therefore,
the criminals who attacked her in her mind were all those scoundrels in the village, and she didn't think of Su Jiyuan at all. But now that she thinks about it, that voice. Isn't it very similar to the voice of Su Jiyuan in her memory? Aunt Wu continued, "Your sister-in-law is funny. She is a young girl, but she is trying to curry favor with someone who is not welcome. She went there several times, but was blocked outside by Su Jiqing. This time, it seems that Su Jiqing was not feeling well, so he went to the county town overnight. Your sister-in-law broke into someone else's house and took their dirty clothes home to wash. I almost laughed to death when I heard that. She was still making up rumors about you, and she hasn't even cleaned her own ace yet. I think she is embarrassing us rural people. Alas, I heard some gossip in the village because she is your sister-in-law, and I stepped forward to stop it. But what she said was also true. How could it be stopped? The whole commune has spread it." Xia Huanhuan didn't care about Li Qiao's reputation at all. She keenly grasped the key points. Su Jiqing was not feeling well, and went to the county town overnight last night. The time, physical condition, and similarity of voice all overlapped. The person who attacked her using such despicable methods must be this rascal. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Aunt Wu, as her sister-in-law, it is not easy for me to intervene in my sister-in-law's affairs. You don't have to make excuses for her for my sake in the future. Everyone has to walk their own path. She is in that state. Do you still need you to sacrifice yourself to speak for her, Aunt Wu?" Aunt Wu was stunned. "Sacrifice myself? Huanhuan, I just said a few more words. What's the sacrifice?" Xia Huanhuan said, "Aunt Wu, you have prestige in front of the women in the village. Isn't it because what you say is the truth, and you will never tell lies, slander, frame, or throw dirty water? But now my sister-in-law's affairs are obviously the facts, but you insist on making excuses for her for my sake, saying that others slander her. Even if the women don't say it, they will think that you, Aunt Wu, are biased. After a long time, they will not gossip to you anymore. If it really comes to that, I will be too sorry," she said while observing Aunt Wu. Apart from other things, last time Li Qiao and her mother Lu Lan made up stories about her saying that she was shameless and had been cheating on men before she got married. Besides embarrassing them in public, she didn't even get revenge. Now it doesn't make sense for her to take advantage of her and have Aunt Wu speak for her. Aunt Wu's heart sank. No wonder Aunt Wang and Aunt Li next door, who like gossip as much as she does, shut up when they saw her coming. It turns out that this is the problem.
Oh.
I was wondering why others have been looking at me, and I'm silent recently. Huan Huan, luckily you woke me up. Did you lose all my prestige for that little witch? I will never speak for her again. Seeing that her goal was achieved, Xia Huanhuan smiled and said a few more gossips before getting up to say goodbye. At the same time, on Li Zhan's side, Lu Lan came to the door, 3 parts happy, 7 parts aggrieved, and said, Zhana, you are back for the new year this year? Why didn't you come to my room to tell me when you came back? And your second brother and second sister-in-law also talk about you every day. I know. It must be your wife who won't let her.
Alas.
Your wife. Li Zhan was not polite and interrupted her with a faint smile. Mom, my wife is very good. She never said a word against you. I didn't go there. It was my own idea. I got married and divided the family. From now on, the place where my wife is my home. It's always unreasonable for me not to go back to my own home for the new year, right? Lu Lan was soft rejected, and she was so angry that she almost died, but she didn't dare to show it on her face. Last time, because of the salesperson's incident, she almost angered her third son and broke off the relationship with her, and that was only 100 work points a month. The fourth son's side is 10 yuan a month. If the situation gets out of control, it will be a big loss.
Alas.
It's hard to deal with these kids when they grow up. So annoying.
Zahnär, Yumisonderstoot.
Mom is not saying bad things about your wife. Mom is just.
Alas.
When you come home, you should also come to my room to sit, right? Otherwise, if others know about it, won't they say that you have married a wife and forgotten your mother? Will they say that your wife is powerful and secretly instigated you? Li Zhan was not afraid that the villagers would say that he married a wife and forgot his mother. Anyway, he thought that he had done more and not less, and he didn't owe Lu Lan anything. But thinking of Xia Huanhuan's reputation, it was just a trip, and Lu Lan might have some intentions, right? He wouldn't be deceived that easily anyway. Therefore, he still smiled and said, okay, then I'll go to your room to sit. The 3 little guys would never go to Lu Lan's room, and now when they saw Lu Lan, they didn't even want to call her grandma. Although they were young, they could still tell who was good to them. In the past, when second aunt beat them in her room, Lu Lan would speak openly or secretly to report them, so that second aunt would beat them even harder. Therefore, they all buried their heads in writing in the room and did not follow. Li Zhan entered Lu Lan's room, but did not sit down, just stood and talked. Li Qiao was washing clothes, and when she saw Li Zhan, she just raised her eyes and glanced at him, then lowered her head without even saying hello. Li Qiao was 19 years old, 5 years younger than Li Zhan. When she was a child, Lu Lan was partial to her, so Li Qiao was arrogant and domineering. When she was 7 years old, she stole $1 from home. After being discovered, she lied and said that Li Zhan asked her to steal it, which resulted in Li Zhan being beaten. Li Zhan did not make any excuses at the time. A few days later, he blocked Li Qiao in a deserted place and beat her up. He was not afraid that Li Qiao would complain again and said with a smile, "Go back and complain. I will beat you every time you complain, and the beating will only be more painful than this time, not lighter than this time, so you can decide for yourself." Li Qiao was scared by the beating, so she dared not provoke Li Zhan again. She avoided Li Zhan for so many years and didn't even dare to say a word. Lu Lan was furious. Qiao, you kid. Didn't you see your fourth brother is here? You didn't even say hello. Li Qiao glanced at her mother and went out with the basin to hang clothes. Li Zhan listened to Lu Lan's chatter while occasionally looking at the clothes that Li Qiao hung, men's clothes. Then his eyes narrowed dangerously. He saw a button falling off a coat. Mom, I really don't know who the fence is for. Last time, when she came back from Beijing to see you, the candies and snacks she bought were eaten by even the unrelated people in the village. As your mother-in-law, I didn't even see a trace of them. Alas, this year is so tight. It's already the 27th day of the 12th lunar month, and your second brother hasn't even cut the pork yet. I just saw you guys killed a chicken. Zhana, look at this 10 yuan a month. Can you increase it a little? Or since you came back this year, the army must have given you an extra visit allowance, right? You can give Mom. Li Zhan interrupted Lu Lan. Mom, whose clothes are you washing, Qiao? Lu Lan was stunned. Did Li Zhan hear what she just said, or not? After thinking for a while, she whispered, I'm telling you, don't tell anyone. It's from Su Jiyuan, the educated youth who came to our countryside. Although it's not public, Su Jiyuan is dating Qiao Qiao. When he returns to the city, Qiao Qiao can marry into the city. Lu Lan thought, if Li Zhan knew that her future brother-in-law was a city dweller, wouldn't he give her more money to build a good relationship with him? So she looked at Li Zhan expectantly. Li Zhan narrowed his eyes slightly.
Su Ji-un?
Although it was too arbitrary to conclude that he was the one who attacked Huan Huan just based on a piece of clothing with almost all the buttons missing. But at least there was a clue for investigation. Li Zhan didn't ask any more questions. Lu Lan and Li Qiao might not know more, and asking too much would only arouse their suspicion. Seeing that Li Zhan didn't respond, Lu Lan felt a little annoyed, so she had to put on a smug face and bring up the matter again. Zhaner, can the 10 yuan a month be? Li Zhan interrupted her and said coldly, Mom, I was just planning to talk to you about this. I thought about it, and my brothers in the family have been married and had children for several years. Now my third brother has separated from the family, and my second brother is earning work points on his own. My wife also took the kid from my eldest brother's family to our house and adopted him. The burden on you is not as heavy as before. Lu Lan's heart still sank. How come this development is different from what she imagined? After the new year, Xiaowen will also go to the town to attend elementary school, and the tuition and other fees are also expenses, so the 10 yuan per month I originally gave you will be reduced to 5 yuan per month starting from next month. Lu Lan was anxious. Zhana this. How can I live on these 5 yuan? And what is the kid going to school for? Look at how many families in the village send their children to school. Those who are sent are laughed at by the villagers behind their backs. The kid can still go to the mountains to pick some wild mushrooms or cut grass for pigs to earn a few work points at home. Li Zhan didn't waste any words with Lu Lan. Anyway, let's just do it. My wife will be back from visiting soon, so I'll go back to the house first. After speaking, he walked towards the door of his house without looking back, leaving Lu Lan almost fainted with anger. Isn't this the pillow talk of that little witch, Xia Huan Huan? Otherwise, how can it be reduced in half just because of 10 yuan? Li Zhan entered the house and found that Xia Huan Huan had returned and was washing cabbage in the yard. Seeing Li Zhan coming back, she looked at him with a look of anger and smile and said teasingly, Why are you back? I thought you were going to have lunch in your mother's room. Li Zhan smiled and said, How can that be? I'm still waiting to eat the meal cooked by my wife. He did not mention the clue of finding the button, mainly because he thought that Xia Huan Huan must have been very scared after being attacked, and there was no need to let her recall this matter again. Xia Huan Huan did not mention her progress with Aunt Wu either. She was planning to take revenge on her own. Xia Huan Huan deliberately made the sound of water very loud and said coquettishly in a cold voice, Anyway, if you are one less, the 3 kids and I can eat more. You sit in your mother's room until noon, and you are still afraid that she will not cook for you? Li Zhan sighed. This is really possible. He walked over and took a towel, pulled Xia Huan Huan's hand out of the water, wiped her hand, and held it in his palm to warm her for a while, which made Xia Huan Huan unable to do it. How could she say the teasing words that were on the tip of her tongue? She struggled twice, blushed, and whispered anxiously, What are you doing? Let go quickly. What if the brats see it? Li Zhan felt a little aggrieved. He was holding his wife's hand, so why was he afraid of being seen? But he let go, pushed Xia Huan Huan aside, and bent down to wash vegetables. The water was really cold. I'll be at home these few days. If you want to wash vegetables or something, call me and I'll do it. The water is so cold, you'll get frostbite later. Xia Huan Huan was stunned, and she felt sweet and warm in her heart. Even in the era before she traveled through time, there were many male chauvinists who never did housework. Not to mention 100%, at least more than 95% of men are probably those who come home with 58 million yuan, and they have everything they want. People like Li Zhan are rarer than giant pandas. Okay, since you took the initiative to wash vegetables, you will have a share of lunch today. As he said that, he went to start cooking. Xiaowen was sensible enough to run to the kitchen to light a fire and start the pot. Stir-fried winter bamboo shoots, mushrooms, and chicken offal. The winter bamboo shoots were still blanched in water, then taken out and diced. After cleaning the chicken offal, keep a small half and cut the rest into small pieces. A large piece of white lard was scooped out from the enamel bowl containing lard and put into the pot to stir-fry until melted. The green onions and garlic were added to the pot, and some bean paste was added. After stir-frying until fragrant, the chicken offal was added, and the mushrooms and winter bamboo shoots were stir-fried. Salt and sugar were added to taste, and it was ready to be served. The chicken blood version of maoxuang is also simple. The bean sprouts and cabbage are blanched in boiling water, and then put into a large bowl for later use. Add the chicken blood and luncheon meat to the boiling water, and also put the chicken giblets that were not fried just now into the pot and cook for a while, then take them out. The next step is the most important seasoning. The bean paste alone is a bit thin, so Xia Huanhuan has already prepared some beef hot pot base in advance. She still adds oil, scallions, and garlic to stir-fry, then puts the bean paste hot pot base, soy sauce, salt, etc. into the pot, scoops in water and brings it to a boil, puts the chicken blood, chicken giblets, and luncheon meat in and simmers, and adds some diced winter bamboo shoots and mushrooms. After a while, take out the ingredients and cover the bean sprouts and cabbage, add minced garlic, pour hot oil on it, and sprinkle with chopped green onions, coriander, and a handful of sesame seeds. The staple food is mixed flour buns made of white flour and sweet potato flour and millet porridge. The family of 5 sits around in the house, the coal stove is burning warm, and they eat with relish. Li Zhan looked at the mixed flour buns on the table and said, "I just told that roommate that I will reduce the amount I give her from 10 yuan to 5 yuan per month. Don't be so frugal. Eat the fine flour buns when you need them. I think there are not many coal briquettes left. I will go to town too, buy some more this afternoon." Xia Huanhuan was stunned. She was about to say that the mixed flour buns were purely for the purpose of supplementing dietary fiber from eating coarse grains. She ate them for health reasons, not to save money. But she thought it was wrong. Wouldn't she be considered a fool if she said this? But he could actually reduce the amount of money he gave to Lulan by half. It seems that Lulan's efforts to get close to the 4th son in the morning backfired. Imagine Lulan's frustrated expression. "Well, it must be wonderful. Then you can use the saved 5 yuan as pocket money." "I have money." But Xia Huanhuan decided to be polite. Her relationship with Li Zhan now, well, it was in a weird state. They were husband and wife, but that kind of thing didn't happen. It felt a little unreal. They were in love. It seemed that this was more appropriate. So now they should treat their relationship as a love relationship. Li Zhan's allowance was 30 yuan, and she felt at ease taking it because she also helped to raise the 3 children of the eldest brother of the Li family. It didn't matter whether she took the 5 yuan or not. She gave Grandma Luo 500 yuan for the house in the county last time, but later she received more than 600 yuan, so she still had more than 1,000 yuan on hand. In fact, she had not yet made up her mind about how to deal with her marriage with Li Zhan. But now she has a house in the county and money in her hands. Whether she continues to live with Li Zhan in the future or divorces, she has a way out and is not afraid. Li Zhan didn't know what Xia Huanhuan was thinking. He thought that his wife asked her to keep the 5 yuan as pocket money because she felt sorry for him and he felt happy in his heart. The gap between people is really big. Lulan would only ask him for money with a smug face. Li Zhan said domineeringly, "I can't spend it in the army. Just keep it if I give it to you. Xiaowen will go to school next year. Where will he not need money? Wait until you and the little kid have white flour buns every day, and then you can talk about not being short of money." Xia Huanhuan was bullied for once, and she was so angry that she laughed in her heart. She just praised him for not being a chauvinist, but it was too early. Fine, just take it if you let her. After lunch, Li Zhan really borrowed an ox cart from the village and went to the town. Xia Huanhuan was at home making dough and steaming buns. In rural areas, during the New Year, people usually steam several baskets of steamed buns or wawatu before the New Year. After New Year's Eve, until the 5th day of the New Year, It is a rest period when people do not do anything except cooking. Steamed buns are the sweetest and most delicious when they are just out of the pot. If they're left for a long time, the moisture will be lost, and the taste will be greatly reduced when they are eaten hot. However, Xia Huanhuan has space. She puts the freshly steamed buns into the space, and then takes them out to eat, and they are still the same as when they were just out of the pot. Because at noon, Li Zhan said, this time she prepared all white flour buns, and also steamed 2 more baskets of sugar buns, red bean buns, and meat buns. The meat buns were a combination of meat fillings with winter bamboo shoots, cabbage, radish, and wild mushrooms. After they were out of the pot, she gave each of the 3 kids a big meat bun to eat, and put most of the rest into the space, and put a small part in a basket covered with gauze and hung on a hook in the house. Li Zhan said he was going to the town, but he actually went to the county. He went to visit a retired comrade in arms who was in charge of the Youth Educated Office in Mo County. He wanted to check the details of the educated youth Su Jiyuan. Although the information of the educated youths was transferred to each commune, he could get a general idea by asking Secretary Zhao. But he was concerned about Su Jiyuan's social relations for no reason. He was afraid that the villagers would spread rumors. If the news of Xia Huanhuan being attacked leaked out, it would be bad. So he simply asked the higher-ups. It was not good to come empty-handed during the new year, so he cut 2 kilograms of pork and brought it over. The old comrade was much older than Li Zhan. He retired from the army and now had a high position in the local area. He received Li Zhan warmly and agreed to Li Zhan's request. After finishing the business, Li Zhan said goodbye because he still needed to buy coal briquettes. When he returned to the town, the coal briquettes in the supply and marketing cooperative had been sold out, but there was still loose coal, and the price was cheaper. Li Zhan bought a truckload of loose coal and borrowed the honeycomb iron mold used to make coal briquettes so that he could come back and make them himself. Xia Huanhuan laughed when she saw it. The new year is only 2 days away, and you really know how to find work for yourself. Otherwise, just burn the loose coal directly and don't make it into coal briquettes. How can that be done? Coal stoves are designed to burn coal briquettes. Loose coal will not burn completely and will produce smoke. In winter, the doors and windows are closed, and it is dangerous. Xia Huanhuan was quite surprised that Li Zhan, a rough man from the countryside, knew all this. Seeing that he insisted, she stopped trying to stop him. In the evening, Xia Huanhuan directly stewed the chicken she had killed in the morning into soup. The pork, chicken, fish, and other things prepared before the new year were actually meant to be eaten until after the new year, so like steamed buns, they were no longer fresh after eating. The main reason was that life was tight, and there was no condition to cook and eat immediately. Xia Huanhuan had no shortage of supplies, so she did whatever she wanted and must eat fresh food. The chicken soup was filled with wolfberries, jujubes, and sliced fresh whole ginseng. The spiritual spring water in the space was also used, as well as wild matsutake, black fungus, and winter bamboo shoots that had been dug up in the mountains before. It was quite nutritious. There were so many things to do that day that she forgot to ask him about the gunshot wound he had suffered on the barren mountain. Anyway, chicken soup is good for the body. Sleeping at night became a headache. Although the house has 2 rooms, but there was only one Kong. She had slept with the 3 kids before, but last night, Li Zhan had sent the 3 kids to Zhou Chua's room. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help blushing when she thought of what happened last night. Ahem. Hold it in. You must not show that you remember what happened last night. After boiling hot water to wash the faces and feet of the 3 kids, the 3 kids took off their cotton jackets in tacit understanding, got on the Kong, and got into bed. Li Zhan looked at the 3 kids sleeping in a row and said, "I'm so tired." The 3 little heads were neatly arranged outside the quilt, and 3 pairs of big eyes were looking at Li Zhan in unison, obviously afraid that he would send them to Aunt San's room again, and they couldn't help but laugh dryly. He actually really had this plan. Huanhuan was unconscious last night, so he couldn't be too beastly. But tonight was different. Huanhuan had recovered as usual. With his wife and children on the warm Kong, he couldn't help fantasizing about it several times during the day. Xia Huanhuan came in after washing herself and smiled. "Oh, Why are you so active tonight? You've already crawled into the quilt? In the past, you wouldn't go to bed until 8 or 9 o'clock. Li Zhan sighed faintly, and he had to thank him for this. After Xia Huanhuan finished speaking, she looked at the calm and couldn't help but feel hot on her face. The calm was actually not small. The three little guys took up about half of it. The remaining half, if Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan were squeezed in, was actually still enough. There were so many people in every household in the village, and didn't they all sleep on the same calm? But in this way, it is inevitable that people will be close to each other. But the three little guys are still sleeping in a row against the wall. Now in front of Li Zhan, she can't ask them to move to the middle and let the two adults sleep on both sides. Otherwise, it will be as if she dislikes him. After hesitating, Li Zhan suddenly said, "Or, I'll sleep on the floor." Xia Huanhuan didn't say anything, and she didn't know if she was shy. In front of the three little guys, he was willing, but his wife might not be willing. It wouldn't be too hard to sleep on the floor. Li Zhan's words made Xia Huanhuan embarrassed. Why sleep on the floor? Didn't you get injured some time ago? The ground is full of cold air. Besides, there are no other quilts and beddings at home for the time being. Anyway, the Kong is quite big, so let's squeeze in. Li Zhan said reflexively. It's okay, I have a military coat, I can sleep with it on. He stopped talking halfway. Li Zhan almost died of his stupidity. His wife found excuses for him to sleep on the Kong, but he didn't come up with any solutions. But it would be best if we could sleep on the Kong. Hopefully, it's not too late to change her mind now. Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan didn't dare look at Li Zhan, and said, I've boiled some hot water. You should wash up before going to bed. Li Zhan couldn't help but grin, and agreed. Okay, you go to bed first. His wife still felt sorry for him. Xia Huanhuan took off her outer coat and cotton-padded jacket, put on a slanted collared middle coat, and slept next to the three little kids, facing inwards, leaving her back to Li Zhan. The three little kids had already fallen asleep in a daze, and Beibei, who had always slept next to Xia Huanhuan, said something in her sleep in a baby voice, turned over and leaned into Xia Huanhuan's arms affectionately. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but smile gently, raised her hand to tuck in the quilt for her, which distracted some attention. After a while, there was a rustling sound of someone stripping off clothes from behind, followed by the quilt being lifted. A gust of cold wind blew in, and Li Zhan lay down next to her. Counting the wedding night, this was the third time the two had slept together, and the situation was much safer now than last night, but Xia Huanhuan found that she was more nervous than the previous 2 times. Li Zhan was very decent, always lying flat, and even deliberately slept outward to try not to touch her. As a result, the quilt on Xia Huanhuan's back was propped up into a triangle, and the cold wind blew in. Xia Huanhuan endured it for a while, but it was too cold to bear, and said unhappily, Duan sleeps so far outward. The quilt has been pulled flat, and the wind keeps coming in. Li Zhan was also a little nervous, and after a pause he smiled and said, Oh. He moved inward and tucked the corner of the quilt for Xia Huanhuan. He turned his head and looked at the little heads of the 3 little guys sticking out of the quilt, and couldn't help sighing in his heart again. Although she was nervous, men are naturally hot-tempered. With a natural stove next to her, the bed was much warmer than usual, and Xia Huanhuan fell asleep quickly. Early the next morning, Li Zhan said, The 2 houses built by my brother are not big enough for us. I will go find Secretary Zhao later and ask him to talk to the commune to see if they can approve a place for us to build a few houses of our own. Xia Huanhuan didn't understand why Li Zhan suddenly brought this up, but she still said, I have already talked to Secretary Zhao about the homestead. It's the vacant land by the river at the foot of the mountain near the village. The commune and the village have agreed. It's just that we will probably have to wait until the slack season next year to start construction. At the beginning of the 12th lunar month, Secretary Zhao had already told her that the house and homestead had been approved. Li Zhan was stunned. He didn't expect Xia Huanhuan to think further than him and had already made all the arrangements.
Oh,
that's great. Next year, my monthly allowance should increase a lot. When we buy bricks, tiles, cement, wood, etc., we can build a few more rooms and give the 3 kids 2 separate rooms. They don't have to sleep together with us at night. Xia Huan. She seemed to suddenly understand why Li Zhan mentioned building a house. What a beautiful idea. She still needed Li Zhan's allowance as a cover to build a house. Today, she made it clear, and Li Zhan didn't object. It couldn't be better. On the morning of the 28th, Li Zhan made all the loose coal into coal and also went up the mountain to cut down a few small trees. He was going to build a small shed in the yard, laid a waterproof wooden frame, and stacked the coal neatly on it to prevent moisture and rain. This amount is enough to burn until after the new year. At noon, I took the 3 kids to catch fish on the frozen river. I knocked a hole in the thick ice, then made a homemade fish hook and hooked some small insects into the water. The frozen water was already lacking in oxygen, so the fish were dizzy and easily caught. In one afternoon, I caught more than 10 fish. The 3 kids each held 2 fish, and Li Zhan held 5 or 6 fish. They went home with a proud look on their faces. Xia Huan was puzzled. The 3 kids who were so afraid of Li Zhan yesterday chased after him with admiration on their faces in just one day. She couldn't help but feel jealous. It was time to fry the fish, so Xia Huan cleaned it, marinated it, and then coated it with batter, and fried it twice in a pan until it was golden. In addition to fish, they also fried radish, tofu meat, spring rolls, ribs, sweet potato chips, and the like. Sweet potato chips are soaked in vegetable oil, crispy on the outside, sweet and soft on the inside, and are eaten as snacks. There is also a kind of snack called ma yi, which is actually white flour mixed with oil, salt, sesame, etc. Rolled into slices with a rolling pin, cut into cubes of appropriate size, and fried in a pan. After cooling, it is crispy and salty. It can be eaten alone, or rolled into shandong pancakes, like before traveling through time and space. Seal it in a plastic bag, and keep it away. Don't put the skin, it can be eaten for a long time. On the 29th day of the lunar year, Li Zhan went to the county again and vaguely said that there was something wrong in the army. In fact, the details of Su Jieyuan, who was investigated by his comrades, were almost investigated. There's nothing special about Su Jieyuan. He was born in an ordinary working-class family in Jincheng, next to Beijing. He has an older brother and an older sister. His brother took over his father's job, and his sister is married. Every family, except for the one with only one child, has a quota for going to the countryside to work in the production team, and Su Jieyuan became his quota. However, this kid is not an easy person to deal with. I heard that his relationships with men and women are quite chaotic, and he had entangled with several girls before going to the countryside. He first went to a village not far from his home in Jincheng to work in the production team, and then somehow he was transferred to Armo County. There are rumors that he might have got a girl in the village pregnant there. His brother-in-law is quite capable, and he suppressed the matter and saved him. Li Zhan's eyes narrowed dangerously. It seems that he is still a habitual offender. However, a dirty guy who goes around everywhere dares to touch his wife. He's looking for death. The old comrade continued. This Su Jieyuan suddenly came to the emergency room of the county hospital late at night on the 26th of the 12th lunar month. He said that he accidentally fell and was injured because the road was slippery in the snow. Do you know where he was injured? His vitals. He was hastily treated, and on the morning of the 27th, he asked for leave from the Educated Youth Point to go back home for the new year. It was the end of the year, and the officer on duty at the Educated Youth Point saw that he was seriously ill and approved the leave. If you had told me earlier, you might have been stopped from leaving. Now it can be 100% certain that it was Su Jieyuan who attacked his wife. There is another thing. One of my subordinates was corrupted by the sugar-coated bullet. He was bold enough to accept some bribes and get a quota for Su Jieyuan to return to the city. But don't worry, I have withdrawn that quota and will report it immediately. Li Zhan frowned, but said, "Don't rush to send out that report." The old comrade was stunned. Why? You are investigating him. You must have some grudges with him to deal with, right? If this quota for returning to the city is given to him, it will be difficult to deal with him when he returns to Tianjin, right? Li Zhan knew it. However, if the quota was suddenly withdrawn now, Su Jiyuan would probably guess that something bad had happened. If he simply hid and didn't come back, it wouldn't matter if Su Jiyuan became an illegal resident, but he would have to spend a lot more time to avenge his wife. With the temptation of a quota for returning to the city, Su Jiyuan is unlikely to be willing to become an illegal resident. He will definitely return to the commune in Qingshui village to go through the procedures for leaving. I heard from my old comrades that Su Jiyuan's leave would only be approved until the 3rd day of the Lunar New Year, and he had to return to the team on the 4th day. Li Zhan nodded, thought about it, and asked his old comrades to help send an official letter to Jincheng. He went to the telegraph station and sent a few telegrams before leaving. It's good that this rascal is not here during the 2 days of the new year, so as not to affect his and his wife's mood for the new year. After returning from the county town, Li Zhan continued to build the shed he built yesterday. Early in the morning on New Year's Eve, the 3 little guys got up early and followed Li Zhan to paste the couplets with glue. Li Zhan took turns to lift the 3 little guys up and asked them to paste the couplets on both sides of the door, which made the 3 little guys giggle. Xia Huanhuan reminded them with a smile and helplessness, "Be careful, don't fall." While reminding, she couldn't help thinking that if Li Zhan had his own children in the future, he would definitely be a good father. Then she immediately thought of Li Zhan's injury. Oh, what a pity. Over the past 2 days, she had somewhat given up. At first, she thought that Li Zhan's injury might be a rumor. After all, how could someone who is injured in that area still be as undistorted as Li Zhan and still be as sunny and warm as ever? At least he should be a little gloomy and irritable, right?
But
Plus last night, it was the 4th time she and Li Zhan had slept in the same bed together. Except for the special situation that night when he helped her warm up her body, Li Zhan didn't even touch her. He didn't look at her or do anything indecent. Either she was not charming enough, or Li Zhan was really not good enough. It must be the latter.
wait.
What a mess is she thinking? Didn't she swear in her heart the night before that if Li Zhan really put his hands on her, she would kick him off the bed? Now, she blames him for not putting his hands on her? She must be crazy. Xia Huanhuan shook her head, threw these unspeakable thoughts aside, and started making dumplings. After Li Zhan and the 3 kids put up the couplets and put a piece of wood at the door as a door bar, they washed their hands and helped make dumplings. Soon they had made 2 large plates and put them outside to freeze in the sub-zero weather. They had mutton noodles for lunch. 5 caddies of mutton with mutton bones are put into the pot, first boiled into thick white mutton soup, and the mutton is sliced. Then the dough is rolled thin, cut into thin noodles with a knife, put into the pot and cooked, and after taking it out, sprinkle a handful of blanched baby spinach, add hot thick white mutton soup directly, season with only salt and scallions and coriander, and then put in thick mutton. In the cold winter weather below 0, eating this bowl of mutton noodles is really warm to the heart. In the afternoon, Zhou Qiuhe brought her 2 daughters and her family Dongbao to visit. Huanhuan, Yingying, and Dongbao were all wearing new clothes. Their little faces were red from the cold. The town supply and marketing cooperative has been closed since yesterday and will not reopen until the 5th day of the new year, so Zhou Qiuhe will also have a holiday. Director Zheng withdrew her salary and work points for the 12th month in advance and also secured for her the benefit of buying things at the internal price for formal employees. Although it was not much cheaper, she was flattered. Zhou Qiuhe wanted to ask if everyone wanted to go to her second brother's house for the New Year's Eve dinner. Wang Guixiang had seen how powerful Xia Huanhuan was, so she didn't dare to go to her door and get a cold shoulder, so she went to find Zhou Qiuhe. This was of course Lu Lan's intention. She was afraid that Li Zhan, her most promising son, was becoming more and more distant and cold to her. Of course, we must take advantage of the special moment of the new year to bring the relationship between mother and son closer. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "I won't go anyway. I'm used to my freedom and don't like to eat with so many people. What's more, she doesn't like me so much. I'm afraid she will poison me alone. But I won't stop others from going." After saying that, she glanced at Li Zhan. Zhou Qiuhe breathed a sigh of relief when she heard it, and smiled and said, "If you don't go, I won't go either." Before the family split up, the meals for the whole family, were prepared by me and my eldest. We were the ones who cooked, and we were exhausted, but when the food was served, there was nothing delicious left. It was so infuriating. Let the second sister-in-law do it herself this time. After getting the answer, Zhou Chihua chatted for a few more words and went back. Li Zhan hugged his shoulders and looked at Xia Huanhuan with a half-smile and said with some grievance, "What did you mean just now? It's as if I can rush to go if you don't go." Xia Huanhuan blinked innocently and said, "I didn't say your name. Why do you take it for granted?" Li Zhan was helpless. It was she who started the conversation, and now she is ignoring it completely. On the contrary, he said that he took it for granted.
Oh.
Who said she is his wife? Even if he suffers a loss, he has to coax her. I won't go either. I will go wherever you are. How can I leave my own home and go somewhere else to celebrate the new year? Xiaowen came up and asked, "Mom, then Xiao, Bebe, can we not go to pay New Year's greetings to Grandma tomorrow?" The three little guys hated Lu Lan and Wang Guixiang to the extreme. They usually refused to call them when they saw them, let alone kowtow to pay New Year's greetings. Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, then glanced at Li Zhan again and said with a smile, "Ask your fourth uncle." Li Zhan was a little depressed. Why did she call him fourth uncle when she called Xia Huanhuan mom? But he didn't force them. He raised his hand and rubbed Li Wen's head, saying, "If you don't want to go, don't go. I won't force you." Xia Huanhuan looked at Li Zhan, and she had some doubts in her heart. Li Zhan used to send almost all of his allowance back home to Lu Lan every year. Logically, he should be very close to Lu Lan, his mother, and very filial. But looking at Li Zhan's attitude in the past 2 days, it was clear that he was very distant from Lu Lan, which confused her. Let's not talk about anything else. Just say that the allowance for Lu Lan was reduced by half to 5 yuan. Although the house will be built next year and the three little guys will go to school one after another, the expenses will indeed increase a lot. But if Li Zhan is really filial, he would rather let his wife and children suffer than deduct his mother's money, right? Moreover, Li Zhan had said before that his allowance would increase a lot next year. Xia Huanhuan frowned slightly, and she suddenly realized that the man in front of her seemed to be much more complicated than she thought. The days are short in winter, and the New Year's Eve dinner is the most sumptuous meal of the year, so preparations began early. When dusk fell, it was time to eat. Scrambled eggs with baby spinach, fried bacon with winter bamboo shoots, cold mixed black fungus, stir-fried large intestine, steamed sea bass, pickled cabbage, stewed chicken with mushrooms, fried meatballs, and 2 plates of dumplings with various meat fillings, and a meatball spinach soup. There were about 8 or 9 meat and vegetable dishes or soups. Li Zhan, like the three little guys, admired Xia Huanhuan's cooking skills to the extreme. Before the meal, they had to set off firecrackers. Xia Huanhuan was still afraid, so she stood far away and asked Li Zhan to take Xiaowen and Xiaowu to set off the firecrackers. "Mom, Bebe is scared." Bebe is young and a little afraid of the crackling sound of firecrackers, so he hid beside Xia Huanhuan and raised his little hands early, trying to cover his ears. However, Bebe was wearing a cotton-padded jacket and was chubby. Even after raising his short hands, he couldn't reach his ears, so he covered them in vain. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help laughing and didn't care about covering her own ears, so she covered the little guy's ears with her hands. "Don't be afraid. Mom will help you cover your ears." The firecrackers crackled, and Xiaowen and Xiaowu were boys after all, and they were very happy and jubilant around the firecrackers. Li Zhan noticed that his wife covered Bebe's ears while she was scared and tilted her head to block the sound with her shoulders, and couldn't help but feel pity and wanted to laugh. He walked over quickly and covered Xia Huanhuan's ears with his warm hands and couldn't help teasing, "You are so old, but you are still afraid of the sound of firecrackers?"
So,
Even if she covered her ears, the sound of firecrackers was still loud. Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, and then her face felt a little hot. When she noticed what Li Zhan said, she asked loudly, "Ah? What did you just say?" Li Zhan smiled, leaned close to her ear, and smiled through his hand. "Nothing." Xia Huanhuan. "Nothing? Are you lying to a 3-year-old child?" This man must have said something bad about her. After eating the New Year's Eve dinner, Zhou Qiuhe and Li Jie brought a few kids to visit. New Year's Eve is supposed to stay up all night. This era is not like the world before Xia Huanhuan traveled through time. There is electricity and the internet. If you have a mobile phone, you can watch videos and play games all night. The Spring Festival Gala feels more and more boring every year. The first Spring Festival Gala was held in 1983, which is still more than 10 years away. Although the first black and white TV was produced in 1958, only a very small number of families in the city had one in the early 1970s. In the countryside, most people have not even heard of the word television. Therefore, coming to visit is not considered a nuisance, but rather everyone chats about family matters and time passes faster. Xia Huanhuan took out the snacks such as melon seeds and milk candies that she had bought before, as well as the fried leaves and sweet potato chips that she had fried 2 days ago. Zhou Qiuhe also brought some fried peanuts and mixed them in so that the two girls in the family, Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei, could grab some and eat them. Several little kids were playing wildly in the house and the yard, while the adults were chatting around the stove and recalling some things from their childhood. Even Li Jie changed his usual taciturn nature and talked a lot about Li Zhan's childhood. Unlike the lively atmosphere here, Lu Lan's side was very quiet. In the past, the eldest son was alive and the third son was not separated. Although Li Zhan never came back from the army, the whole family still had a lively new year. In the past 2 years after the death of old man Li, Lu Lan was the center of the family. Which son and grandson did not kneel down to kowtow to her? As a result, this year, Wang Guixiang asked, and I don't know how she spread the word. As a result, neither Li Jie nor Li Zhan, both married wives and forgot their mothers, and neither of them agreed to eat New Year's Eve dinner together with the whole family. Wang Guixiang had to cook the New Year's Eve dinner by herself, but because of her poor cooking skills, it was either too salty or not cooked. Lu Lan was already unhappy, so she took it out on Wang Guixiang and said that she cooked pig food. Wang Guixiang's family is large, and although she is afraid of Lu Lan and tries to hide, she is kind enough to cook during the new year, and she scolded her for making her angry. Wang Guixiang directly said a few words to Lu Lan, quit the job, and turned back to the house. Wang Guixiang also made some dumplings herself and left some for her husband and 2 children, just as the New Year's Eve dinner. Lu Lan didn't even make dumplings. Now her second son, Li Chong, was also a henpecked husband. He didn't even have the courage to serve her a bowl of dumplings and hid in his room like a coward. Her daughter Li Qiaoqiao was even less reliable. She had nothing to eat and clothes to wear. Now, not only did she not cook for her mother, she also complained that Lu Lan shouldn't scold her second sister-in-law. Now she couldn't even eat dumplings. Lu Lan was so angry that her heart ached, but she was so hungry that she could only make some cornmeal and sweet potato porridge and heat up 2 mixed flour buns. She didn't even cut the meat. She went to Wang Guixiang's room to ask for meat. Li Chong wanted to give it to her, but Wang Guixiang stopped her with a look. Lu Lan had to go back with a dark face. She fried a large cabbage for New Year's Eve. She didn't cook for many years, and her cooking skills were not as good as Wang Guixiang's. The food was also very salty. Li Qiaoqiao rolled her eyes in disgust and ate 2 bites and then stopped eating out of spite. Lu Lan was angry and the food was really unpalatable, so she only ate 2 bites. She called Li Qiaoqiao to wash the dishes, but Li Qiaoqiao pretended not to hear. Lu Lan felt deeply sad. Fortunately, she had saved all the money before. Look, this is the flesh that fell from her body. They are all ungrateful. The room was dark. She looked up and saw that on the other side of the fence, Xia Huanhuan's yard was brightly lit and full of laughter and joy. She did not reflect on her mistakes, but hated Xia Huanhuan even more. It must be Xia Huanhuan who instigated her not to let Li Zhan come to her place for the New Year's Eve dinner. Otherwise, Li Zhan used to send all his allowances back home. How could such a filial child suddenly change? On Xia Huanhuan's side, the kids went crazy for a while, and then they couldn't stand it anymore and rubbed their eyes and felt sleepy. Zhou Qiuhe and Li Jie took the children back. Xiaowen, and the other three also got into bed. Xia Huanhuan was lying on her side with her clothes on, singing nursery rhymes to Beibei, but she fell asleep while singing. She had been busy preparing for the new year these days, and although it seemed that she had not done anything, her physical fatigue was actually accumulating. In addition, she was attacked that day and lay unconscious in the snow for so long. Although she seemed to have recovered overnight because of her young age, her body was not fully healed. Li Zhan came back after washing up, and he didn't know whether to laugh or cry after seeing this. Just now, she arrogantly said that she must stay up until dawn, and she wanted to compete with him to see who would fall asleep first, but now she fell asleep first. He called her softly twice, trying to wake her up and take off her cotton padded jacket before going to sleep. Xia Huanhuan responded vaguely, turned over, but did not wake up. Li Zhan had no choice but to take off her cotton padded jacket for her, and then pulled her to straighten her into the quilt. Xia Huanhuan was only wearing a single piece of clothing. At this moment, she was sleeping sweetly, without any defense. Li Zhan's eyes could not help but turn darker. He had been enduring for several days. Today was New Year's Eve. Even if he forced himself, his wife would not be angry, right? Li Zhan held her in his arms. His big hands uncontrollably reached under her clothes, exploring with some excitement and tenderness. His other hand was to deal with the annoying buttons. After finally unbuttoning them, before he could do anything, he suddenly felt the gaze above his head. Li Zhan looked up suddenly and saw Xia Huanhuan looking at him dazedly, with a blank face. Xia Huanhuan was just dazed. Li Zhan's movements were not big and could even be called gentle, but Xia Huanhuan had never experienced such a thing after all, so she was still woken up. Of course, she didn't wake up completely, but was in a dazed state of half asleep and half awake. Her beautiful eyebrows couldn't help but frown, her eyes were blurred, and she was a little dissatisfied with her sleep being disturbed. Why did she keep bothering her when she was not sleeping at night? Li Zhan felt guilty for a moment, but he made up his mind immediately. Xia Huanhuan was his wife, so what he did was natural and right. Even the king of heaven couldn't find fault with him. Therefore, he stared at Xia Huanhuan's beautiful face, which was still a little confused, with his dark eyes, and put his arms around her waist, gently holding her in his arms.
Wife.
With a hoarse and magnetic voice, he leaned over and whispered in her ear, "I can't help it." Xia Huanhuan was stunned, and her brain was still in a state of shutdown. Can't help it? What can you help? Still think the Kong is too small and want to sleep on the floor? She yawned, closed her eyes, and pushed Li Zhan softly with her arm, and said vaguely, "If you want to sleep, go to sleep. Don't delay my sleep." Li Zhan's eyes lit up. Didn't this mean that he had obtained the permission of his wife? Wife. At this time, Mom, Xiao Wu sat up and said dazedly while rubbing his eyes,
Li Zhan.
"This little rascal. He really knows how to pick the right time." Xia Huanhuan tilted her head and fell asleep again. When she heard Xiao Wu's voice, she just wanted to wake up, and then she remembered that Li Zhan was sleeping next to her. So she kicked Li Zhan and said vaguely, "Xiao Wu needs to urinate. You get up and do it." Li Zhan was helpless. He had to get up without temper, picked up Xiao Wu, wrapped him in a cotton coat, and then opened the door to go to the toilet outside to urinate. But Xia Huanhuan, who was used to flush toilets, really couldn't stand this, so if she got up at night, she would still go to the toilet outside. When Li Zhan came back with Xiao Wu, Xia Huanhuan and Xiao Beibei had already occupied Xiao Wu's original sleeping position. Xiao Wu climbed onto the bed first and said, "I want to sleep next to my mother."
Li Zhan.
He and Xia Huanhuan had become sandwiched between Xiao Wu, and they couldn't do anything. Before dawn the next day, Li Zhan got up with unsatisfied desire and swept all the snow from the yard to the front door. After sweeping the snow, it was still dark, and Li Zhan was doing one-handed push-ups while thinking to himself. There were 3 little brats making trouble at night, so I was afraid that there would be no chance, so I might as well do it during the day. Anyway, once the door was bolted, who knew what they were doing in the house? After dawn, Xia Huanhuan woke up, stretched, and then realized that the buttons of her clothes were unbuttoned for some reason. This Could it be that she unbuttoned them herself because she felt too hot at night? Li Jian was still sleeping next to her.
Ah,
She remembered that Li Jian seemed to sleep on the floor at night. She, a delicate wife, was sleeping next to him, but he thought she was crowded and would rather sleep on the floor. Xia Huanhuan was emo for a while before she got up and helped the three brats put on their clothes, shoes, and socks before getting up. Breakfast was still dumplings. After breakfast, Li Jian and Xia Huanhuan gave each of the three kids 50 cents as New Year's money. Zhou Qiuhe's two daughters, Huanhuan and Yingying, also came to wish their uncle and aunt a happy new year. Li Jian didn't give them anything this time, so Xia Huanhuan gave each of them 30 cents as New Year's money and asked Dongbao to take 30 cents back. The three kids also went to Zhou Qiuhe's place and got 30 cents as New Year's money. The kids happily ran to the village store to buy firecrackers, candies, and the like. Lulan was waiting at home early in the morning. In order to please Li Jian, she prepared 10 cents as New Year's money for each of the three kids. As for the two girls from her third son's family, what New Year's money do girls need? Just give Dongbao 5 cents. Unfortunately, she waited for a long time, but no one from the third and fourth rooms came to wish her a happy new year, and she couldn't even give money away. She was so angry that her mouth was almost crooked. Originally, Li Jian planned to take advantage of the day when the three kids were out having fun, and they were alone to pull his wife into the house and do the deed. However, before he could do it, the loudspeaker in the village sounded, asking all villagers to gather at the gate of the commune. Li Jian was very depressed. Soon, the villagers, the educated youths in the educated youth point, and the people living in the cowshed gathered at the gate of the commune. Secretary Zhao first wished everyone a happy new year and then said happily, "There is good news to inform everyone. Starting this year, every household in our village can be allocated a small private plot of land according to the population." As soon as this was announced, everyone looked at each other, and they didn't react for a while. They ate from the same pot, planted the land collectively, and everyone worked together to plant grain, cotton, and vegetables, and then waited for the village to divide the work points according to the commune. This has been going on for several years.
now.
Suddenly, land is being distributed to each family again. After a moment of silence, the villagers couldn't help but get excited.
Oh my.
Each family has their own land again. Whatever they plant and harvest is theirs.
Oh.
That's great. I have many children in my family, and the food I earn from work points is not enough to eat. With this private plot, I can grow some for myself to supplement the income. I want to grow some fruits and vegetables. Secretary Zhao saw that everyone was discussing enthusiastically, so he raised his hand to signal everyone to be quiet and continued. Don't worry. I haven't finished speaking. Each household has only a small piece of private plot, and nothing you plant is enough to feed your whole family. Let me be frank, farm work in the commune takes priority. During the busy spring and autumn harvest seasons, whoever is lazy and cheating in the fields, thinking only of getting his own private plot, then if the grain production is not enough, the private plot will be taken back by the authorities. At this time, someone at the educated youth point asked, "Secretary Zhao, does this private plot belong only to the villagers, or do we educated youth have it too?" Secretary Zhao looked at the dozen or so educated youths who were standing a little further away from the villagers, and another group of 5 or 6 people living in the cowshed. He smiled and said, "The educated youths are all registered in our commune, so there must be some. But it is impossible to give you a small piece each, so we will give you a large piece according to the population. When the time comes, you can discuss whether to plant separately or on your own. As long as you don't fight, the village will not care." Everyone laughed. The educated youths in the educated youth points couldn't help but laugh excitedly and discuss in a low voice. Those who were close to each other had gathered together to discuss what to plant together. Secretary Zhao looked at the group of people in the cowshed with some guilt. They were originally sent to work, so naturally they had no share of the private plots. But the 5 or 6 people in the cowshed probably guessed that they probably didn't have any, so they smiled and didn't ask if they had any. Secretary Zhao cleared his throat and continued, "There is one more thing. On the 5th day of the Lunar New Year, Several educated youths and reformed people will come to our commune. Each village has been allocated quotas. When they come, we will draw lots to divide the private plots. After the meeting, everyone dispersed after discussing. Secretary Zhao stopped Li Zhan and said, "Li Zhan, I have something to ask you. There are not enough people to rely on a few village cadres. Can you help the commune measure the private plots that Qingshui village wants to divide and set the boundaries? It's the new year, and we shouldn't ask for this. But the policy from above is urgent, and everyone is looking forward to it. The sooner the private plots are determined and distributed to the villagers, the sooner everyone will feel at ease." Li Zhan naturally agreed. "Secretary, look at what you said. I'm a soldier. If you don't ask, I will ask if there is anyone who can help." Then he followed the village cadres to measure the tools used to measure the land, and went to the field. Secretary Zhao went to Xiajia village and another village to announce the good news. In the winter, the roads were still covered with snow. Secretary Zhao felt bad for asking the villagers from the other two villages to come to the meeting, so he made 2 extra trips to announce the good news. Xia Huanhuan was also very happy. There was fertile black soil in her space, which was much more fertile than the most fertile fields in the village. But with the excuse of the private plot, she can take out the vegetables, fruits, and other things in the space more conveniently. The private plots are small pieces of land near the corners of the village. The shapes are not very regular. In addition, they are all covered with snow, and the original boundaries of the land are not easy to find, so it takes a lot of time to measure. Li Zhan didn't go home until dark, and he had to do it in the next few days. On the second day of the Chinese New Year, Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan took the 3 children back to her mother's house. This was the first time Li Zhan came to visit. Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru had been waiting at the entrance of the village for a long time. They saw them coming from a distance and went to greet them. Lin Yiru took Beibei from Xia Huanhuan's arms, and Xia Shuangshan picked up the younger Xiaowu. The 3 children politely called Grandpa Grandma. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help laughing. "Why did you come so far to pick me up in such cold weather? Are you afraid that I won't come back?" Lin Yiru smiled a little embarrassedly. "Your father and I are wearing the new clothes made of the cloth you tore for me. We are not afraid that you won't come back. Aren't we waiting anxiously?" Xia Huanhuan saw that they were indeed wearing the new clothes made of the cloth she tore for them last time, and smiled with satisfaction. They looked pretty good. Xia Shuangshan was relieved to see that Li Zhan was tall and handsome. Although he was injured in that part, his masculinity was not diminished at all. He was a little reserved and said hesitantly, "I'm coming back. Why buy so many things?" Xia Huanhuan brought a bag of loose sugar, 2 bottles of canned peaches, a gift of 3 pounds of pork ribs, 50 eggs, and a big grass carp, making a 4-color gift. Li Zhan smiled and said, "Not much. I'm not at home all year round, so I have to ask my parents to come and visit often and help Huanhuan." This was a nice thing to say. The soldiers sent back dozens of yuan in allowance every month, and only Huanhuan helped them. How could they help Huanhuan? Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru's affection for this son-in-law increased rapidly. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but glance at Li Zhan. He called mom and dad so naturally and sincerely, and it was more fluent than her. People who didn't know would probably think that Li Zhan was his biological son, and she was his daughter-in-law. Li Zhan found that Xia Huanhuan was peeking at her and winked at her slyly. When she arrived at Xia's house, Xia Huanhuan found that the house where Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru lived had also been fenced. She couldn't help but be stunned. There was no fence when she came last time. Lin Yiru whispered, "During the New Year, Li Cuehua said some unpleasant things every day, so your father simply followed your example and built a fence so that he doesn't have to look at them when he goes in and out." Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but smile and said, "This is good. Out of sight, peace of mind." Then she asked, "Have you heard about the private plots?" Lin Yiru's eyebrows and eyes were full of smiles. "Secretary Zhao personally went to the village to hold a meeting and said that your father and I heard that we can get 0.2 mu of land. Half of it will be planted with vegetables, and the remaining half will be planted with beans or wheat and corn. It will be enough for your father and I to eat. If the family had not been divided, the private plots of the Xia family would probably not be divided. At that time, they would definitely work the most like old oxen, but eat the least. Now, everything is divided clearly. Whether they plant well or not, the harvest of the 2 mu of land will fall into their own house. How can they not be happy? They chatted about family matters until noon. Xia Shuangshan had gone to the mountain 2 days ago and shot 2 wild pheasants. For lunch, they had wild pheasant and radish soup, wild mushrooms and pheasant stir-fried, winter bamboo shoots and cured roe deer meat, white flour buns and soup dumplings. Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru had started preparing such a rich meal for guests half a month in advance. Xia Huanhuan knew that they said they were splitting up, but in fact it was equivalent to leaving the house with nothing. Except for this 1.5 rooms, they didn't want anything. This meal was very thoughtful. After dinner, Li Zhan rushed to clean up the dishes and wash the dishes, which stunned Xia Huanhuan. Although he washed the dishes at home these days, he was not so active. Lin Yiru gave each of the 3 kids 50 cents in New Year's money. Xia Huanhuan could not help but stop him. Why give so much? It's not easy for you to earn money. Lin Yiru stuffed it in and said, "Take it. How can you hold back the New Year's money for children if you don't give enough? During the winter, although you can earn work points, your father goes out to repair walls and pig pens and sheep pens for others, and he also makes a few cents a day." Alas, in the past, we didn't make money from working, but now it's much easier. Xia Huanhuan didn't refuse. The family went home in the afternoon. On the way, Li Zhan smiled and said, "Dad and Mom love you very much. That's good. When they have their own cubs in the future, he can't rely on this mother here. When his wife gives birth, she will bring a crying cub, and he is not sure if he can come back by chance. He is afraid that he will have to trouble his parents here to take care of him." So what he said just now was actually sincere. Xia Huanhuan didn't know that Li Zhan had already thought of the plot a few years later, so she couldn't help but glance at him and said with a smile, "Seeing your parents calling you so smoothly, I thought you were their son." Li Zhan smiled and said, "I married their daughter, so isn't the son-in-law half a son?" "You're not wrong." When he got home, Li Zhan was busy measuring the land, setting boundaries, and drawing a distribution map of the private plot. On the 3rd and 4th days of the Chinese New Year, there were no other relatives to leave, but Li Zhan was still busy and finally measured the land before the 5th day. The quality of the land was similar, so the only thing to determine was how much to divide. In the end, it was decided that adults and those over 15 years old would each get 0.1 mu of land. Half-grown children between 10 and 15 years old would each get 0.07 mu of land, and children under 10 years old would all get 0.05 mu of land. Xia Huanhuan's family was calculated to have 2 adults and 3 children, each with 0.2 points and 0.15 points, for a total of 0.35 points. Converted into square meters, it is about 23 square meters, which is the size of a living room in a modern commercial apartment. It is indeed not big, and a small vegetable garden is just right. On the 4th day of the Lunar New Year, Su Jiayuan did not return to the village on vacation. Li Zhan pretended to ask the village cadres a few questions about the educated youth point and got to know Su Jiayuan's situation. He knew that he had extended his vacation for 1 more day and would not return to the village until the 5th day of the Lunar New Year. It seemed that he had no intention of running away. Li Zhan was not in a hurry and waited for this rascal to come back. Early in the morning on the 5th day of the Lunar New Year, the County Educated Youth Point sent a large vehicle to take the new educated youth to the village entrance. There were 18 educated youth assigned to the commune this time, and 6 of them went to Qingshui village, 2 men and 4 women, including Fu Qingye. Except for Fu Qingye and another female educated youth who came from Beijing, the hometowns of the other 4 people were very scattered. 2 people came from Shaanxi province in the northwest, 1 came from Shandong province near the sea, and 1 came from Hebei province, which is closer. Su Jiayuan took the car that sent the new educated youth back to the village. On the way, several educated youths surrounded him and asked him about the situation of the commune. Fu Qingye pretended to be casual and asked, "Brother Su, then I want to ask someone who is also from Qingshui village. Do you know him? The man is called Li Zhan. He is a soldier, and his home is in Qingshui village. The smile on Su Jiyuan's face froze. 7 or 8 days ago, he almost got the man's wife.
How could he not know him?
However, he looked at Fu Qingye with scrutiny. Although she was not as stunning as Xia Huan, who made people unable to take their eyes off at first sight, she was also beautiful. The important thing was that she grew up in Beijing City since she was a child. She inexplicably had a kind of aloof temperament that kept strangers away. How did Li Zhan, a peasant from the countryside who served as a soldier, know such a man? Judging from what she asked, she probably came to the countryside just for Li Zhan, right? Could it be that she didn't know that the peasant's injury would be useless to a woman? Su Jiyuan couldn't help but feel jealous of Li Zhan. He knows him. He is the only one from Qingshui village who went out to serve in the army. He just got married a few months ago and adopted 3 children from his eldest brother who died. He became a father right after getting married. Fu Qingye was stunned for a moment, then frowned imperceptibly. Adopted 3 children from his eldest brother's family?
Why hasn't she heard about this?
They are not her own children. Why should she raise them?
But
this is also a common bad custom in rural areas. In a big family, if a son can't have children, he will adopt another son's child as his own, so that he can have a filial son to take care of him in his old age. Fu Qingye was stunned again. Can't have children? Who? Su Jiyuan couldn't help but laugh with a bit of sarcasm. Who else?
just ask the people you want.
Everyone in the commune knows that Li Zhan was injured in that part and can't have children anymore. Fu Qingye opened her mouth, but didn't say anything. Li Zhan was injured in that part? How is it possible? If this is true, the Fu family can't not know. However, she didn't plan to help clarify it. On the one hand, although it was an arranged marriage, Li Zhan was a married man after all. She knew Li Zhan's privacy so well. If people suspected that there was something going on between her and Li Zhan, it would not only ruin Li Zhan's future, but also her own reputation. Wouldn't that mean that her and Li Zhan's future would also be ruined? On the other hand, why did she let Li Zhan's country wife know that Li Zhan was not injured? If she knew about this, she would cling to Li Zhan and refuse to divorce. Let rumors spread in the countryside. Anyway, Li Zhan will go to Beijing to live in the future. It would be best to cut off all ties with these poor relatives and fellow villagers in his hometown, if possible. Su Jiyuan asked again. You seem to have a close relationship with Li Zhan? Fu Qingye's face froze for a moment, then smiled. Actually, I don't know him very well. It's just that my brother and he are comrades in arms. When I went to the countryside, my brother heard that his family was here, so he asked him and his family to take care of me, so I thought of asking about the situation first. But I will try not to trouble his family. We responded to the country's call to go to the countryside as educated youth. Isn't it to experience the hard work of farmers and temper ourselves? How can you always ask for help from others? When the others heard Fu Qingye say this, they couldn't help but look at her and felt that this person was quite hypocritical. Su Jiyuan smiled and said nothing more. His return to the city quota should arrive in the village in 1 or 2 days, and then he can return to the city. These newcomers wait for another 2 or 3 months after experiencing the spring busy season and then see if they can still say such things. The educated youth point in Qingshui village was built on a flat land in the east of the village. There were 2 rows of 10-tiled houses, 2 people in 1 room. The house was also very simple, with only 2 beds, a table and 2 stools. There was no electricity, and they could only light a kerosene lamp at night. There was a black iron can on the table with a can of ash in it. It was filled with kerosene, with the wick sticking out, and it looked disgusting. The bedding was brought by the educated youth themselves, because the village was so poor that there was no money to buy them new cotton quilts. Fu Qingye was so disappointed by the terrible environment that he wanted to go home immediately. But after thinking about it, he endured it and lived in a room with a female educated youth who also came from Beijing. The village didn't hold any welcoming ceremony or anything like that. The other educated youth were curious and ran out to take a look, which was considered a welcome. As for the people in the cowshed, they didn't have the treatment of being picked up and dropped off by car. This time, 3 people came from Qingshui village, 2 of whom were transferred from other nearby communes, and Shen Wanxue was one of them. They all came here on foot with their luggage. The other one came from the city, and the county sent a bullock cart to take him to the town. Then someone watched him, and he also walked from the town. The people in the cowshed lived not far from the educated youth site. There were a few thatched houses built next to the cowshed, and there were 2 people in one room. After the new educated youth and the people in the cowshed were settled, the village loudspeaker notified everyone to gather at the gate of the commune to draw lots for private plots. Secretary Zhao and the village head first showed everyone the large map of the location distribution of the private plots that had been measured and selected in the past 2 days. Each plot was marked with size and number, and then the plot numbers of the same size were placed in a bamboo tube for drawing. In terms of order, the educated youth site was allowed to draw first, which was considered a little preferential treatment. Then, each household in the village drew lots once, and then the official drawing of lots was carried out. Fu Qingye tiptoed among the villagers for a long time, but did not see Li Zhan, and could not help but feel a little disappointed. She knew that Li Zhan came back to celebrate the New Year this time, and she didn't know if it was because of what the country wife said. Humph. She deserves it. If Li Zhan didn't go back to the village for the New Year, he would most likely be invited by the Fu family to stay at the Fu family for a few days, so that she could still spend a few days with him. It was all messed up by this annoying country-born daughter-in-law. The 5th day of the New Year is commonly known as Puwu, and you have to sweep the yard and so on. Xia Huanhuan was cleaning up at home, so she and Li Zhan went a little late. Most of the villagers had finished drawing and went to check the land they had drawn happily. She was not nervous and drew a card casually. When she opened it, it was number 31. Coincidentally, it was a piece of land by the river next to the homestead approved by the village for her. Zhou Qiuhe saw her and came over and asked, "Where did you draw?" Xia Huanhuan showed her the card she drew. Zhou Qiuhe couldn't help frowning. "By the river? That place is not good. If there is a heavy rainstorm in the summer, it may be flooded when it floods. Why don't you talk to Secretary Zhao and let him change it? 4th brother has been busy for several days. Secretary Zhao will definitely agree." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "No need to change. The tidal flat is good and fertile. Besides, how could it be such a coincidence that there will be a flood this year?" Zhou Qiuhe glanced at Li Zhan next to him, smiled and said, "The land is fertile. However, you are afraid of the bad influence on Li Zhan, so you don't want to talk to Secretary Zhao, right?" Xia Huanhuan was stunned, and then she couldn't help but blushing and said coquettishly, "Third sister-in-law, what are you talking about? Why should I be afraid of affecting him? Others think that the land is not good, but I am satisfied. I will not change it even if someone gives it to me. When the new house is built this year, the land will be next door. How convenient." Zhou Qiuhe smiled and said, Okay.
I was wrong about this.
But you told Director Zheng about the salesperson in the supply and marketing cooperative yourself, right? Xia Huanhuan's face turned even redder. That matter was not entirely for Li Zhan. Why did Zhou Qiuhe mention this matter in front of Li Zhan, embarrassing others? Li Zhan was confused, so he smiled and asked, "Third sister-in-law, what is a salesperson?" Xia Huanhuan said anxiously, "Don't tell me." After she said this, Li Zhan became more curious and insisted that Zhou Qiuhe tell him. Zhou Qiuhe pursed her lips and smiled and said, "Director Zheng said that she had her eyes on Huanhuan at first, but Huanhuan didn't want it, so she recommended me. Finally, I was able to become the salesperson. Huanhuan said that you were a soldier, and she was afraid that if she became the soldier herself, others would say that it was because of your relationship or something, and she was afraid that it would affect you." Xia Huanhuan's face was burning, and she glanced at Li Zhan. He said, "Don't think wrongly. I just don't want to do it. I'm just looking for a reasonable reason. Otherwise, I won't take the opportunity given to me by others." How offending! Li Zhan felt sweet in his heart. He looked at Xia Huanhuan lovingly and said with a smile, "Yeah, I don't want to think wrongly. Whatever my wife says is true." Xia Huanhuan felt even more embarrassed after hearing this. This broken man said he didn't want to think wrongly, but it would be strange if he didn't think wrongly in his heart. The three of them walked back while talking and laughing. Since Xia Huanhuan was attacked on the road that time, she has been alert a lot. She always pays attention to the surroundings. This time, she keenly felt that someone seemed to be looking at this side. She turned back suddenly and looked around. She saw the figures of Su Jiyuan and several educated youths in the gradually dispersing crowd. Su Jiyuan was clearly looking at her. Xia Huanhuan sneered. It was just right to come back. She would have the opportunity to take revenge and complain. Just as she was about to turn around, Xia Huanhuan noticed that a female educated youth with 2 pigtails who was with Su Jiyuan looked very familiar. She couldn't help but take another look. Who else could it be but Fu Qingye, whom she met in Beijing before? This White Lotus is really shameless. She chased Li Zhan to his hometown? Let's see what trick she has. Fu Qingye dawdled until the end and finally waited for Li Zhan to come. Seeing Xia Huanhuan beside him, she resisted the urge to step forward and say hello. Last time in Beijing, she was intimidated by Xia Huanhuan, and Li Zhan was obviously on her side. If she rashly stepped forward again this time, what if the countrywoman disregarded her face and tore her face in public and scolded her some ugly words? How would it end? Seeing that Li Zhan and the others had gone far away, Fu Qingye said to the other educated youth, "Let's go back too." Su Jiyuan's eyes flashed coldly. Xia Huanhuan, this witch, is lucky enough not to be frozen to death. But he didn't know who rescued her, and he didn't hear any gossip about her. Did she wake up and go home by herself? Anyway, since she is alive and didn't complain to the village about being attacked, it means that she has not been exposed. Humph. He still has a few days before returning to the city. Before he leaves, he must make Xia Huanhuan, this witch, even more broken, so that his injury will not be in vain. Fortunately, he went to the hospital in time. The kick was serious, but he survived in the end. The one just now was Li Zhan, and next to him is his wife. Why didn't you go up and say hello? Su Jiyuan smiled and looked at Fu Qingye. Fu Qingye glanced at Su Jiyuan warily and said with a smile, "Why didn't you say it earlier? I have only seen him once or twice, and I didn't dare to recognize him." Another new female educated youth smiled and said, "The wife of Li Zhan you are talking about is so beautiful. That man can't have children and is away from home all year round. Can his wife stand the loneliness?" Everyone else laughed. Su Jiyuan smiled maliciously. There are so many bachelors in and outside the village. Is she still afraid of loneliness? Fu Qingye glanced at Su Jiyuan sharply and said, "Don't talk nonsense and ruin her reputation. She has only been married for a few months. How could she go out and cheat on a man?" Another educated youth took over the conversation and said with a smile, "So what? Maybe the man she cheated on was not from the village, but from the city in the county town." Fu Qingye's eyes lit up. "You are talking nonsense again. How can she, a country woman, know a man in the county town?" The educated youth smiled. "She is having a hot affair with the director of the supply and marketing cooperative in the town. She often follows the purchasing truck to the county town, so of course, she has the opportunity to know him. And she goes there so frequently, isn't it, to meet a man secretly? Years ago, one of our educated youths saw her coming out of the alley with a man in dishevel. This educated youth was bribed by Su Jiyuan. Xia Huanhuan almost abolished him. In addition to playing with her, of course, he had to bad her reputation. What dung do you spray with your mouth? Where is it good? He was going back to the city right away, and now a good-looking came out. Isn't that destroying him? Returning to the city immediately, the number of fighting back to the city was cancelled again, so it would be lost. When he returned to the room, he saw some clothes on his bed. His face turned pale, and he guessed that Li Qiao must have taken the clothes he took off that day to wash without his permission. He was so angry that he was about to put the clothes into the box, but his face suddenly changed color. The buttons on a coat were obviously not the same as the other buttons. And this coat was the one he wore when he attacked Xia Huanhuan. After he came back, he was afraid of being recognized, so he changed his clothes and threw them on the bed casually. But did the button fall off or not? I don't remember. If it fell off when he was pulling with Xia Huanhuan, would it be discovered? Su Jiyuan was frightened, but then forced himself to calm down. Don't be afraid. It is also possible that Li Qiaoqiao accidentally dropped it when washing. When someone holds the buttons as evidence to question him, he just needs to deny it. After returning home, Xia Huanhuan went to the inner room and took out some spinach seeds. Then she picked up and said to Li Zhan, "I'll go to our private plot. We can plant some spinach seeds in this weather." Li Zhan took and said, "You can't stay idle either. I'll go too. That plot of land is by the river, and the ice is not thick. It will be troublesome if she accidentally falls into the river." Su Jiyuan came back, and he must be worried about his wife going out alone. Xia Huanhuan smiled and didn't stop her. The two went to the private plot. The land was originally a semi-abandoned land, and only one crop of corn was planted a year, so now there is nothing in the land except snow. Li Zhan turned the land with and Xia Huanhuan scattered the seeds in the back and covered them with soil. The snow water can provide moisture, so there is no need to water it. After planting spinach, Xia Huanhuan pointed to the wasteland next to her and said with a smile, "This is our homestead. The place is quite large. We can build a small courtyard. And it's not far from the back mountain, so it's convenient if we want to go to the mountain to pick wild mushrooms or something." Li Zhan looked at Xia Huanhuan describing their future home, with infinite tenderness in his eyes, and couldn't help but smile. "Yeah. When the house is built, I'll see if I can ask for leave and come back." Xia Huanhuan remembered something and asked, "By the way, when will your leave end this time?" Counting it all, Li Zhan has been at home for 8 or 9 days. For a soldier, this leave is not short. Li Zhan glanced at Xia Huanhuan, a little resentful. Why does his wife always want him to leave? No hurry, there's still a few days. In fact, it's only the day after tomorrow, but he certainly can't leave without dealing with Su Jiyuan. By the way, let's take the 3 kids to the county town tomorrow. Xia Huanhuan looked at him in confusion. Go to the county town? What for? Li Zhan smiled and said, "Let's take a family photo. The photo studio should be open these days." Xia Huanhuan was stunned. This man is quite considerate. Okay. Anyway, we are free. The two talked for a while, and then got up to go back. Xia Huanhuan slipped and screamed "ah," almost falling into the river. Li Zhan quickly grabbed her wrist and pulled her back to his arms and hugged her tightly, still frightened. "Why are you so careless?" "Fortunately, I am with you." The breathing sound was right beside her ears, and she was hugged close to Li Zhan's broad chest. Xia Huanhuan felt her heartbeat speed up inexplicably, and her pretty face flushed uncontrollably. I've stood firm. You let go." Li Zhan was reluctant to let go. He quickly scanned the surroundings. This was an unobstructed area. If it was autumn, it would be fine. It was full of reeds with white fluff floating on them. It would have been an atmosphere and romance. Unfortunately, it was winter now. The ground was bare. The reeds had been cut by the villagers and to make beds. We were in the mountains recently. Although it was a bit cold outside, it was better not to run into people. Li Zhan's eyes darkened, and he whispered hoarsely into Xia Huanhuan's ear, "Huanhuan, let's go into the mountains." Xia Huanhuan was stunned. Go into the mountains? To hunt? You have to go home, get a sickle and a backpack, right? Li Zhan. Was he too obscure? Okay, let's be more straightforward. Li Zhan coughed twice, and just as he was about to speak, a loud voice suddenly came from behind him. "Oh my! Isn't this Huanhuan and your husband? Look at you two in broad daylight." Hee hee. Xia Huanhuan quickly pushed Li Zhan away and looked over with a red face. Who else could it be but Aunt Wu?
Wu.
Aunt Wu. It's not what you think. I slipped and Li Zhan pulled me. Aunt Wu looked at her with a smile and said, "Why are you still so reserved in front of Aunt? You are a young couple who can say anything. Even if Li Zhan did something, he is still a young man after all. Isn't it normal for him to hug his wife to relieve his urges?" Aunt Wu felt that she was very open-minded. Xia Huanhuan. Li Zhan felt bitter, but he still greeted her with a smile. "Auntie Wu, why are you here?" Auntie Wu smiled and said, "My family's private plot is also here. We can talk while we work in the future. What did you win?" "I also said that you should plant some spinach quickly, and we can eat it in 20 days or a month." Xia Huanhuan blushed and smiled. "We also planted spinach. By the way, Auntie Wu, I still have some seeds here. Your private plot is bigger, so let's plant them together." As she said, she took the seeds to Auntie Wu. Her seeds are all new varieties that are modern and insect-resistant and cold-resistant, which are much better than the seeds cultivated in the 1970s. Auntie Wu took them gratefully and said, "Oh, how can I be so embarrassed?" Xia Huanhuan didn't let her refuse and said a few more words of gossip, and then went back with Li Zhan. Li Zhan glanced at Xia Huanhuan and made up his mind that as soon as he got home, he would lock the door and do his business without saying anything. But there was an uninvited guest in the Li family. Fu Qingye was sitting in Lu Lan's room with the specialties of Beijing, such as donkey yellow, walnut cake, and poria cake. "Aunt, these are all specialties of Beijing. Please don't dislike them, just keep them and try them." Fu Qingye's idea was very simple. Xia Huanhuan was married to Li Zhan's family, so the one who can make the decision must be Li Zhan's mother Lu Lan. As long as Lu Lan was conquered and let her make the decision, forcing Xia Huanhuan to take the initiative to divorce, how could Li Zhan not agree? Lu Lan was flattered when she saw the educated youth from Beijing. "Girl, you said you knew Li Zhan?" Fu Qingye said embarrassedly. "We've known each other for many years. I thought Brother Li Zhan and I could." Alas, it's too late to say anything now. Brother Li Zhan is already married. After saying that, she paused deliberately, glanced at Lu Lan, and then quickly said, "Aunt, I don't mean to blame you. It's just something went wrong. It's just that Brother Li Zhan and I are not destined to be together. Originally, we were discussing that in the future. We would take you to Beijing to enjoy life." She had already heard about the discord between Lu Lan and Xia Huanhuan, so she didn't plan to waste time beating around the bush with this old countrywoman, and just used words to deceive her. Taking her to Beijing. How is that possible? That is to say, let this old woman divorce Xia Huanhuan first. When Lu Lan heard that she was going to be taken to Beijing to enjoy life, her eyes were wide open. Jing City. That's where the big leaders live. She dared not even think about it. According to what this educated youth said, if Li Zhan married her, could he really take her over to enjoy a peaceful life? "My daughter."
You
said you wanted to take me to Jing City?"
Yes.
"Aunt, you have worked hard all your life. Of course I can't let you suffer in the countryside anymore. It's just, alas, it's too late. Brother Li Zhan already has a wife." Lu Lan said immediately, "My daughter. To be honest, I regret marrying Zhaner, such a witch wife. I asked Zhaner to divorce her a long time ago, but Zhaner was bewitched by this witch and refused. Alas, if he is willing to divorce that witch, I will immediately agree to your marriage." Fu Qingye's face was a little dark. According to what this old woman said, Xia Huanhuan was married to her by her, but now she wants to divorce, but she can't make the decision? You know, this old woman is so useless. Why did she come here with snacks to establish a relationship? Her boxes of snacks were wasted. Li Zhan disagreed, probably because he didn't know Xia Huanhuan's background, right? Humph. If he knew that Xia Huanhuan was cheating on a man in the county, would he still want her? Alas. Brother Li Zhan refused to divorce her because he was a soldier. If he took the initiative to file for divorce without a legitimate reason, it would be a mistake. It would affect his future. But I just got here, and I heard some gossip about Brother Li Zhan's wife. I don't know if Brother Li Zhan knows. Lu Lan was cheered up when she heard it. "What gossip? Tell me." Fu Qingye looked up at Lu Lan and said, "Alas, I don't know whether I should say it. It's just, people say that Brother Li Zhan's wife goes to the county every few days. She has a lover in the county." As he was talking, Fu Qingye saw Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan coming back with hose from a distance, and his eyes were full of jealousy. When they reached the front door, Fu Qingye mustered up his courage, came out of Lu Lan's room, walked over and said with a smile, "Brother Li Zhan, hello." Long time no see. Li Jian had been rehearsing in his mind all the way. When he opened the door and entered the yard, he would lock the door, then directly pick up his wife horizontally, regardless of whether she resisted or not, and throw her directly onto the Kong. But when he heard Fu Qingye's voice, Li Jian frowned. A flash of impatience flashed in his eyes, and he sighed depressedly. Okay. Today's plan is ruined again. With this Fu Qingye here, will his wife still be in a good mood? Can she still let him do whatever he wants? He must be dreaming. It's probably good enough to let him sleep on the Kong at night. Sure enough, Xia Huanhuan heard Fu Qingye's voice, turned her head, and saw that it was indeed Fu Qingye. She sneered at Li Jian and went straight into the yard. This White Lotus is so bold that she dared to block her door directly. Qingye, why did you come here to the countryside? Li Jian sighed and asked. Fu Qingye lowered his head, looking pitiful, and stammered. I still want to see what the place where you grew up is like. Brother Li Jian, is this your home? Can I go in and take a look? As he said, he wanted to go into the yard. Li Jian was about to stop her, but Xia Huanhuan had already taken out a broom made of thin bamboo for sweeping the yard and started sweeping the floor without saying anything. The tip of the thin bamboo swept Fu Qingye's legs and feet, making her retreat in embarrassment.
Hey, you.
What are you doing? Fu Qingye retreated, and Xia Huanhuan came forward, still sweeping her feet hard with every sneering. Don't you have common sense? Today is the 5th day of the lunar year. Send away the god of poverty and sweep away bad luck. I'm going to sweep away all the gods of bad luck and poverty who want to enter my house. Fu Qingye's face turned pale, and she was a little embarrassed about her weak and innocent image. Xia Huanhuan. You called me the god of poverty and bad luck. Xia Huanhuan stopped sweeping the floor, leaned on the broom, tilted her head and smiled at her. Her big watery eyes looked innocent. Did I say it? Don't take it personally. It makes it seem like I really scolded you. Fu Qingye was so angry that she cursed you. You countrywoman. You are too rude. Xia Huanhuan hid behind Li Jian, grabbed Li Jian's arm with both hands, and looked at Fu Qingye with some fear. Li Jian, she scolded me.
Well,
it would be more effective if you call me hubby, but it's a pity that it's not popular in this era. Fu Qingye got even angrier. You're a countrywoman, but you have such strong hands that you almost broke her hand last time, and you just hit her feet with a broom. Why are you pretending to be weak? And you're complaining. But she can't get angry in front of Li Jian. Brother Li Jian, I didn't. I just wanted to. I wanted to come to your house as a guest. I don't know why sister-in-law is so unwelcome to me. Xia Huanhuan tilted her head slightly, looked at Fu Qingye with a smile, and said, Because you are too innocent?
Anyway.
Well, you are not welcome. As she said that, she swept twice more with the broom, scaring Fu Qingye to step back repeatedly. Then she put away the broom, turned her head to look at Li Jian, and said coquettishly, If you dare to let her in, then in the future, you don't have to enter this door anymore. After that, she turned around and went into the yard with the broom. Li Jian was so tempted by his wife's charming look of turning her head and being angry that he wanted to go in and deal with her immediately. Unfortunately, why are they making trouble one after another and never stop? Fu Qingye was almost jealous to death. No wonder Lu Lan said that Xia Huanhuan was a witch. What man would not take the bait when she turned her head and looked so charming? But this is just right. It is easier for Brother Li Jian to believe that she was cheating on a man in the county. Fu Qingye's eyes were full of tears, and she was sniffing and felt extremely aggrieved. Brother Li Jian. How did I offend my sister-in-law? Woo-woo. Li Jian sighed. Didn't his wife answer? Because you are too innocent. Qingye, you should go back today. Don't come over in the future. Huanhuan doesn't like you, and I certainly can't let you in. Let's leave it at that for now. After that, he didn't say anything nonsense, walked into the door without looking back, and then locked the door with a clang.
Fu Qingye.
This time she was really angry and cried. Fu Qingye walked back crying, wishing she could kill Xia Huanhuan. From childhood to adulthood, she had never suffered such injustice. When she returned to the educated youth camp, it was almost time for dinner. The educated youth who shared the same room with Fu Qingye was eating, and Fu Qingye's stomach immediately growled. She asked, "Is dinner ready? Where can I get food?" The educated youth was named Wang Ling, and she looked at her like she was an idiot. Everyone in the educated youth camp cooks for themselves. If you don't have food, you can borrow some from the commune first, and then when you earn work points by doing farm work, you can deduct it. Fu Qingye's eyes widened. Cook. Cook for yourself? Isn't it a big pot meal? Wang Ling said. The big pot meal just started, and later everyone felt that it was not fair that they didn't have enough to eat, so they all cooked their own meals. Didn't you check before you came? Of course, Fu Qingye didn't check. Her goal is to make Li Zhan's country wife divorce Li Zhan, and then she will marry Li Zhan and return to the city. It will only take a few months. Who would bother to check this? Then, do you have any leftovers from your cooking? Give me some. Fu Qingye said confidently. Wang Ling frowned. She originally thought that since she was from Beijing, they lived in the same room. Now it seemed that it was a mistake. I just did my own share. No more. Fu Qingye was very angry. How can you be so selfish? You don't even cook for me. Wang Ling was also a hot-tempered person. She didn't care who she was. She sneered. What? Did you give me food or money? I cook for you? How can you be so shameless? Even if you pay me, I won't be willing to serve you. Get out of here. Fu Qingye's face turned blue and white after being scolded. She didn't dare to say anything. She ran to the place where the educated youth cooked with a dusty face. She found that she had to pick up firewood by herself. Each person had a small pile with their name written next to it. Whoever dared to take it would be scolded by everyone. Fu Qingye had nothing, so he had to eat some snacks that he brought to fill his stomach. He began to regret that he was too careless. Originally, the Fu family didn't need anyone to go to the countryside. The eldest and second brothers were soldiers, and the third brother was a doctor at Union Medical College. As an adopted daughter, she had a legitimate policy and did not have to go to the countryside. She was so stupid that she applied for it. Now she is so regretful. It seems that we should make a quick decision and return to the city as soon as possible. The next day, Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan, along with the 3 children, all wore new clothes. Li Zhan was wearing a military uniform, which made him look handsome and elegant. Xia Huanhuan was wearing a slanted collared floral coat. Although it was a country style, she was beautiful and looked good in anything. The family took the village ox cart to the town, and then took a bus from the town to the county town to take pictures. There was no photo studio in the town, so if they wanted to take pictures, they had to go to the county town. It was the first time for the 3 children to go to the county town, and they couldn't help but shout with joy at everything they saw along the way. The journey didn't seem long. It was almost noon when they arrived at the photo studio. Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan were sitting, Li Zhan holding Xiaowu, Xia Huanhuan holding Bei Bei, and Xiaowen standing slightly in front of them. The camera was the kind of film camera covered with a black cloth that you can only see in movies. Suddenly, Xia Huanhuan's hand was grabbed by Li Zhan's big hand. With Xiaowen blocking the way in front, she couldn't take a photo, but it still made Xia Huanhuan extremely embarrassed. She struggled a few times but couldn't get away. The photographer said, "Don't move, keep smiling. Let's take a photo, 1, 2. Click. After taking the family photo, the 2 took another photo of themselves. It would take 2 weeks for the photos to be developed, and by then Li Zhan would have returned to the team. Li Zhan asked Xia Huanhuan to develop 3 photos and asked her to send him one when the time came. After leaving the photo studio, Li Zhan said with a smile, "Let's go. It's rare for us to come here. Let's go to a restaurant." Xia Huanhuan smiled and agreed. "Okay. I'll let you be extravagant for once and treat us to a meal." They chose a state-owned restaurant. Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan each ordered a bowl of noodles with gravy, and the 3 kids ordered a bowl together. They also ordered a few other dishes. One was braised duck, one was stir-fried kidney, and one was candied yam. The 3 kids ate with their mouths full of oil, but they couldn't help but say, "It's delicious." But not as delicious as Mom's. Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment. Then he couldn't help but feel happy. This little flatterer can talk. He couldn't help but scold. Even delicious food can't stop your mouth? Li Zhan looked at his wife and 3 little kids, and for a moment he felt that his heart was full of sweetness. After dinner, Li Zhan asked Xia Huanhuan and the 3 little kids to wait, and he would come back after doing something. Xia Huanhuan said, "If you have something to do, I and the little kids will go back first." Before she finished speaking, Li Zhan suddenly said in a cold voice, "No." Xia Huanhuan was shocked. It's not like she had never gone back by herself. Li Zhan was scared when he thought of the way Xia Huanhuan lay in the snow that night, so he turned his head and said, "Anyway, you wait. You are not allowed to leave by yourself." Then he went to do things. It was called doing things, but in fact, he went to the Educated Youth Point to ask about the reply to the official letter from his old classmates, and went to the telegraph station to check the replies to several telegrams that had been sent out before. The next day, Li Zhan went to the county again, and before leaving, he told Xia Huanhuan not to go out alone and to stay at home. Xia Huanhuan didn't care, and thought about drying some winter bamboo shoots while the weather was good. The winter bamboo shoots will be out of season in more than a month, so while they can still be dug, dry some winter bamboo shoots so that you can eat them later. The method is simple. Just boil them in salt water until soft, then cut them into slices and dry them in the sun. There were not many winter bamboo shoots at home, so Xia Huanhuan went to the mountain to dig them with a backpack. Not long after entering the mountain, she felt someone following her secretly. Xia Huanhuan could probably guess who it was. After the last sneak attack, she became much more alert. In the past 2 days, every time she was in the village, she could feel a pair of vague eyes always watching her. However, every time she went out, she was almost always with Li Zhan, and she had never been alone, so some people might not have found a chance to attack. Li Zhan didn't let her go out alone, and she probably guessed that he was afraid that she would be in danger again. However, she still planned to take revenge and complain. Last time, she was attacked and forced to inhale what was probably mandrake or some dizzy potion, which made her so passive. This time, she would never repeat the same mistake. Xia Huanhuan pretended not to notice and continued to walk deeper into the forest. In the past few months, she would go into the mountains from time to time to pick wild mushrooms, dig winter bamboo shoots, catch wild rabbits and wild pheasants with traps, and by the way, if she met the snow wolf family she met before, she would feed them some food or something, so she knew all the mountain forest paths in this area like the back of her hand. She deliberately led Su Jiyuan to a place with dense bushes, and then suddenly cried ouch. Her legs went limp, and she pretended to fall. Su Jiyuan, who was following behind her, was delighted and rushed forward, pretending to cover Xia Huanhuan's mouth and nose with a handkerchief soaked in medicine like last time. However, Xia Huanhuan was well prepared this time. While she was falling, she had already taken out a short knife from her boots, turned around and swung it accurately and fiercely, hitting Su Jiyuan's outstretched arm. Immediately, a deep cut was made on Su Jiyuan's forearm, and blood flowed out.
Ah!
You witch! You dare to sneak attack me! Su Jiyuan roared in pain, shock and anger. Xia Huanhuan ignored him. A sneer appeared at the corner of her lips, and her body nimbly stepped back 2 steps, and then kicked Su Jiyuan between his legs again.
Ouch!
This time, Su Jiyuan fell to the ground in pain, curled up like a shrimp, gasping for breath and almost unable to speak. Xia Huanhuan. Pa! Xia Huanhuan mercilessly threw a wooden board at Su Jiyuan's face, and his face was immediately beaten into a pig's head. She tilted her head and sneered condescendingly. You have such a dirty mouth. It seems that not only do you not want men's things, but you don't even want your tongue, right? Su Jiyuan was in so much pain that cold sweat broke out on his forehead, and murderous intent appeared in his eyes. This stinky woman. Originally, he was thinking that after getting Xia Huanhuan, he would let her divorce her husband, and then take her back to the city and marry her as his wife. He didn't mind that she had been married before and had an affair with the man in the county, but she didn't follow him gratefully. But now, this woman has been ungrateful for many times. After playing with this woman, he planned to break her legs and throw her into the mountains to feed the beasts. Although he was kicked in great pain, There is no reason for a man's physical strength to lose to a woman, as long as he can get over the pain. Xia Huanhuan took the wooden board and slapped Su Jiayuan left and right. After slapping him more than 10 times, she stopped and sneered. "It was you who attacked me in the grove last time? You used drugs, such a despicable method, which was really shameless. Today is just a small lesson. Next time you dare to appear within 500 meters of me, don't blame me for being rude." After that, she turned and left. She didn't intend to cause a death. If an educated youth got into trouble, the village and the county would not be able to ignore it. By then, it was hard to guarantee that she would not be found out, and then she would be in trouble. She had just walked away a few steps when Su Jiayuan stood up, looked at her with a gloomy face, and suddenly rushed towards Xia Huanhuan again with his belt in his hand, pretending to strangle her neck with the belt. Xia Huanhuan sensed the movement behind her and sighed faintly. Really, he didn't even have a way to live, but he was courting death. She touched the birthmark on her wrist and entered the space. Su Jiayuan was stunned.
How?
How could it be possible? How could a living person suddenly disappear out of thin air? At this moment, a voice suddenly came from behind him. "Are you blind? Where can I find you?" Su Jiayuan turned around in horror and found that Xia Huanhuan, who was supposed to be in front of him, was suddenly behind him. Xia Huanhuan kicked her. Su Jiayuan lost his balance and fell towards the bushes. The dense bushes covered a steep full of locust seedlings.
Ah!
Su Jiayuan screamed and rolled directly to the bottom of the valley. His face and hands were scratched by small thorns and bleeding. Xia Huanhuan stood at the edge of the steep and looked down. Whether she lived or died depended on Su Jiayuan's own luck. Then she entered the space again. Of course, she knew that there was a steep behind the bushes, otherwise, she would not have chosen this place. Now that she has come to this point, she can only try to minimize the traces she left at the scene and create a reasonable and sufficient alibi. When she entered the mountain, she deliberately chose a path that only she knew and did not let the villagers see her. Otherwise, Su Jiayuan, who was so cautious, would not have followed her. Therefore, even if Su Jiayuan returned to the village alive and identified her, there was no evidence to prove that she had been to the mountain. The next step was her alibi when Su Jiayuan was attacked in the mountain. Xia Huanhuan teleported directly from space to home like just now in the mountains, moving from in front of Su Jiayuan to behind him, or moving directly from the mountains to home. These operations, her space is now proficient in doing. Then she went out to visit Aunt Wu. When Li Zhan came back in the afternoon, Xia Huanhuan was already collecting the winter bamboo shoots that had been hung out to dry in the morning. Seeing Li Zhan coming back, Xia Huanhuan looked up and smiled. "You're back? Have you finished your work?" Li Zhan hummed, then asked. "You didn't go out today?" "No, I was drying bamboo shoots at home in the morning, and then I went to visit Aunt Wu for a while." Xia Huanhuan felt a little guilty for some reason, but she still decided to lie. Li Zhan nodded and smiled. "That's good." After dinner, there was a sudden commotion in the village. It was said that an educated youth was missing. It was not known whether he ran away secretly or what happened. All the male laborers at home in the village were gathered to search the mountain. Li Zhan asked Xia Huanhuan to stay at home with the 3 kids and not run around. He put on his clothes and went to the gate of the commune to gather. Only then did he know that the one who couldn't be found was Su Jiayuan. Li Zhan's eyes darkened. In Su Jiayuan's cognition, his return to the city should be available in 2 days. Why did he run away at this time?
Could it be?
The news leaked in advance?
Non. Impossible.
Even the educated youth point in the county was only known to his old comrade. The town and the village knew nothing about it. Su Jiayuan could not have heard the news. However, no matter what, he could not let this rascal escape so easily. 20 or 30 men in the village and 7 or 8 male educated youths in the educated youth point took torches or flashlights and began to search for people in the mountains. At this time, Li Zhan's advantages in reconnaissance and survival experience in guerrilla warfare in the southern jungle were revealed. He did not search with others, but followed his own pace. According to the information such as the location and time when Su Jiayuan was last seen in the village, He soon found the secret entrance to the mountain. The sun was shining these days, the snow melted a lot, and the ground was a little muddy. He found that in addition to the man's footprints, there was another pair of women's footprints. Following the footprints all the way inside, he found the crushed bushes and the subtle sounds coming from the steep next to the bushes. And all the footprints stopped abruptly after reaching here. Li Jian quickly went down the steep and saw Su Jiyuan lying in the snow, dying. One of his legs was injured when he fell. "Help! Help! Please! Save me!" Hearing the noise, Su Jiyuan shouted anxiously but weakly. Li Jian snorted and walked over. Even he couldn't help but admire that this dog thing was really lucky. The bottom of this steep was surrounded by acacias and other thorny bushes, so wild animals rarely came here. Otherwise, I'm afraid he would have been eaten by wild animals without leaving any residue.
But Li Jian frowned.
Why is Su Jiyuan's face so swollen? It's not much better than a pig's head, and there is blood coming out of his nose and mouth. It's as miserable as it can be. Li Jian squatted down and looked at Su Jiyuan with cold eyes. Su Jiyuan saw clearly that the person coming was none other than Li Jian. It was all Xia Huanhuan's fault that he became like this. Now that her man is here, how can he save him?
You. What do you want?
It was Xia Huanhuan who asked you to kill to silence the witnesses, right? I'm warning you. If anything happens to me, you will have to pay with your lives. Li Jian narrowed his eyes dangerously. Huanhuan? Su Jiyuan said incoherently. It was Xia Huanhuan who pushed me down. She seduced me to the mountains and wanted to have an affair with me.
Ah.
Before he finished speaking, Li Jian stepped on his injured leg. The leg bone that was originally just a fracture broke directly. Li Jian looked down at him from a high position, with a floating smile on the corner of his lips, and his voice was cold. What? Say it again, I didn't hear it clearly. As he spoke, he looked around and found a big rock, kicked it with his foot, and then put it on the ankle of Su Jiyuan's other foot. Su Jiyuan was in so much pain that he felt like he had just been pulled out of the water. His whole body was covered in cold sweat. He looked at Li Jian blankly as he did these things, not knowing what he was trying to do. It was Xia Huanhuan who pushed me down. The other intact leg was also broken. Su Jiyuan fainted from the pain. Li Jian pinched his philtrum and woke him up from his coma. Well, say it again. Su Jiyuan reacted this time. He cried so hard that his tears and snot flowed together and said in a trembling voice, "It was. I accidentally stepped on empty air and fell down." Li Jian smiled, nodded, and asked, "Is there anything else you forgot to say?" Su Jiyuan was stunned and looked at Li Jian in fear. Li Jian said, "Let me remind you." Then he took out a button. When Su Jiyuan saw the button, his pupils suddenly contracted and he shook his head in horror. This is not my button. I don't have it." Li Jian sighed. "It seems that you don't even want your arm anymore?" Su Jiyuan's face suddenly turned pale, and he said with a trembling mouth, I said, she also kicked me. I swear I really didn't do anything." Li Jian heard Su Jiyuan's confession. His eyes were cold, and he sneered. "Now you should know why you broke your leg? You even dare to touch Li Jian's wife. Are you looking for death?" Su Jiyuan was already scared and shook his head desperately. "I dare not. I never dare again. Please save me, don't leave me here." Li Jian tilted his head and thought for a while, then said, "Well, everything else is easy to say. It's better to destroy the place that the beast can't control." As he said this, he suddenly kicked Su Jiyuan in that part. The force was much greater than Xia Huanhuan's kick. Su Jiyuan's eyes rolled back and he fainted again. Li Jian then got the man on his back and carried him to the foot of the mountain. A villager had already taken him and asked where he was found and what happened. Li Jian said, "He probably slipped and fell down a steep. Both legs were broken. Men's private parts were also seriously injured."
Oh.
"With such a serious injury, we should send him to the hospital overnight." The villagers arranged to find a bullock cart and sent Su Jiyuan to the hospital overnight. Li Jian did not follow them, but went back home. Xia Huanhuan had already fallen asleep. When she heard him come back, she got up again and asked nervously, "How is it? Did you find the person?" Li Zhan frowned and glanced at her, and said, "Found him. Both legs were broken, and he was unconscious. He was sent to the hospital overnight."
Oh.
Xia Huanhuan responded, looking at Li Zhan strangely. "I always feel that he seems to be angry. Wait, I'll boil some water for you to wash before going to bed." Li Zhan nodded and took off his clothes. When Xia Huanhuan boiled the water, Li Zhan suddenly asked, "How many bamboo shoots did you dry today?" Xia Huanhuan couldn't help shaking her hands, and then she smiled. "Not many. I was planning to go to the mountains to dig some more, but you didn't let me go out, right?"
I thought I would go into the mountains to dig tomorrow.
Li Zhan frowned and was silent for a while before he said, "Well, I'll go with you to dig tomorrow. Go to sleep." It started snowing again in the second half of the night. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when she got up early in the morning. The snow was heavy, and the traces of her entering the mountains yesterday should have been covered up, so she didn't have to worry about being exposed. Of course, what she didn't know was that those footprints and traces had been destroyed by Li Zhan on the way back. Su Jiyuan didn't wake up until the afternoon. Both of his legs were broken. Even if he recovered in the future, he would probably have to use crutches. As for that aspect, this time it was completely hopeless. What was even worse was that as soon as he woke up, he was faced with arrest by the police from the county police station and the police from the city. It turned out that when Su Jiyuan was working in the countryside in Tianjin, he seemed to have gotten a girl in the village pregnant. Later, the girl might have been so upset that she jumped into the river and committed suicide. Su Jiyuan then changed the place where he worked in the countryside. However, there is evidence recently that the girl did not commit suicide, but might have been murdered, and the suspect was Su Jiyuan. Su Jiyuan could not accept this fact and fell into a state of madness, saying that it was Xia Huanhuan who pushed him down the steep yesterday and that his legs were broken by Li Zhan or something. Su Jiyuan's words made the villagers who sent him to the hospital overnight slap him several times on the spot, and some people came forward to punch and kick him, scolding him for being ungrateful and slandering Li Zhan. "You rascal! Li Zhan's wife was visiting my house during the day yesterday, chatting with my wife. They didn't even go up the mountain, so how could they push you down?" "That's right. My wife was there too. She can prove it. And there was Li Zhan. If Li Zhan hadn't found you on the mountain in the dark, risking his life to find you, and carried you, you rascal, down the mountain, you would have been fed to the wolves long ago. And you still have the life to spew here? You slander the couple as soon as you open your mouth. What kind of beast are you?" "That's right.
Bah.
You're an educated youth. You broke your leg, it's your bad luck. Are you hating Li Zhan for not finding you and saving you earlier, and you even want to frame your savior? What a thing. If we had known earlier, our village should not have searched the mountain until midnight to look for him." Seeing that no one believed him, Su Jiyuan was so anxious that he made a fuss and spoke incoherently.
No. Xia Huanhuan.
"She is not a human. I tell you, she was in front of me 1 second ago, and suddenly disappeared, and suddenly appeared behind me the next second. She must be a fox spirit in the mountains. After she pushed me, she cast a spell and went back to the village to chat with your wife." The villagers and the police looked at him as if he was mentally ill. I don't know which villager said, "Beat him. It's okay to frame people in our village, but he also engages in feudal superstition. This is deliberately smearing and harming our commune." It was only when the police pulled the angry villagers apart that Su Jiyuan was not beaten to death. As for what he said, the police naturally didn't believe a word. There are so many villagers testifying. Who can be trusted and who can't be trusted? Isn't it clear at a glance? Village. Because it snowed, Li Zhan didn't let Xia Huanhuan go into the mountains. He went into the mountains with a basket and ate to dig bamboo shoots. Xia Huanhuan looked at the snow outside and said, "You don't have to go either. There's snow everywhere. It's so dangerous if you step on empty air. I'll go dig it myself when the weather clears up." Drying bamboo shoots is not a big deal. She had plenty of winter bamboo shoots in her space, So going to the mountains was just an excuse and fun, and there was no need to risk her life. Li Zhan didn't look at her and said, "My vacation is about to end. I'll dig more before I leave, so you won't have to work so hard." Xia Huanhuan frowned and looked at Li Zhan. What she said was quite reasonable, but she always felt that he was being upset and sulking. It seemed that she didn't provoke him, did she? Okay. Then you be careful. Xia Huanhuan was also a little angry and decided to ignore him. Li Zhan couldn't tell whether he was angry or what. He just wanted to be alone for a while to sort out his out-of-control and irritated emotions. What Su Jiyuan said on the mountain didn't seem to be a lie, and the footprints into the mountain were indeed those of a man and a woman. If it was Huanhuan who really pushed Su Jiyuan down, that means that not only did his wife lie to him, but she also confronted Su Jiyuan alone in the mountain. Thinking of this possibility, and recalling the night when he saw Xia Huanhuan unconscious in the grove, Li Zhan couldn't help but feel his heart tighten. He wanted to ask Xia Huanhuan clearly, but he didn't know how to start, so he decided to avoid her first and wait until he could control his emotions. Not long after Li Zhan left the house, Lu Lan suddenly came over. Lu Lan said with a cold face and a haughty attitude, "Xia Huanhuan, when Zhaner comes back, you will take the initiative to file for a divorce with him and go to Secretary Zhao today to complete the divorce procedures." Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment and then laughed out of anger. "Is this Lu Lan here to make fun of you?" She didn't even pretend to be an old woman who was bullied, and she came down to tear her face apart in person. "Mother-in-law, if you took the wrong medicine, go back and take it, don't run around," Xia Huanhuan said coldly. Lu Lan was about to say that she was not sick, so why should she take medicine, but suddenly realized that Xia Huanhuan was scolding her for being sick. She was so angry that her face turned black. "Xia Huanhuan, you little witch, stop talking in such a sarcastic tone. I'm your mother-in-law. You did such a shameless and dirty thing, and you still dare to act wild in front of me? I tell you, if you agree to divorce Zhaner today, I will save you some face and let you have the possibility of remarrying in the future. If you don't agree..."
Hee.
Xia Huanhuan heard something behind this and asked with a cold face, "What kind of shameless and dirty thing did I do? I want to hear you talk about it today." Lu Lan put her hands on her hips and sneered, "Okay. You are shameless, so I won't be polite either. You have been following Director Zheng of the Supply and Marketing Cooperative to the county town for a long time. I'm afraid you have found a lover in the county town. How dare you cheat on me with a man outside without telling my son?" Xia Huanhuan narrowed her eyes dangerously and said lightly, "I'm cheating on you with a man outside? Mother-in-law, did you see it with your own eyes? Or was it you who did it behind my back, spreading rumors to ruin my reputation, just like last time?" Lu Lan was so angry that Xia Huanhuan slandered her when she heard it, and she said, "Don't spit blood on me. I didn't see it with my own eyes, so of course someone else saw it with their own eyes. The educated youths in the Educated Youth Point saw you coming out of a dark alley in the county town with a man with their own eyes, and you still dare to quibble. The educated youths in the Educated Youth Point? I'm afraid it wasn't that Fu Qingye?" Xia Huanhuan sneered. The educated youths in the Educated Youth Point never interacted with the villagers. Who else could have come into contact with Lu Lan recently except Fu Qingye? Lu Lan's face turned pale. She didn't expect that Xia Huanhuan guessed that it was Fu Qingye after just a few words. She couldn't help but feel a little panicked. She came to force Xia Huanhuan in person. Wasn't it to make Li Zhan divorce quickly, and then marry Fu Qingye and take her to Beijing to enjoy a good life? She couldn't offend Fu Qingye. "Xia Huanhuan, you shut up. Fu Qingye is a college student from Beijing. How can she lie?"
Let me tell you.
My son has always liked Fu Qingye, and he rushed back on the wedding night. Do you think he did it to consummate the marriage with you? Zhaner came back to break off the engagement with you. It's a pity that he didn't make it, so he had no choice but to acknowledge you as his wife. Xia Huanhuan suddenly felt a pain in her heart, and she looked at Lu Lan in shock. On the wedding night, Li Zhan rushed back in the middle of the night, but it turned out that he didn't do it to catch up with her wedding, but to break off the engagement? She was so touched at that time, and felt that the man she met in the arranged marriage didn't seem so bad. It turned out, she was just stupid and misunderstood. Lu Lan continued, "How can you, a country woman, compare with a college student in the city? And Fu Jiqing's family is a big official in Beijing. Why does Zhana want a country which like you, but not Fu Jiqing? You'd better be smart and take the initiative to divorce Li Zhan otherwise. I will tell my son about your cheating on me. By then, your reputation will be ruined, and you won't be able to get married." Xia Huanhuan looked at Lu Lan's arrogant face and calmed down. Even if Li Zhan really came back to break off the engagement, that was a matter between her and Li Zhan. Was it the turn of this old hag to jump up and down? And she even scolded her. She suddenly took a few steps towards Lu Lan and said in a cold voice, "Who are you calling a witch?" Lu Lan was actually a little scared of Xia Huanhuan in her heart. She stepped back with a ouch sound and accidentally tripped and was about to fall backwards. Xia Huanhuan raised her hand as if to grab her hand and exclaimed, "Mother-in-law, be careful." But when she grabbed Lu Lan's hand, she suddenly pushed it hard. Lu Lan could have stood on her own, but she fell down with a bang and lay on the ground, ouch for a long time, unable to get up.
Xia Huanhuan. You
dare to push me? Xia Huanhuan squatted down and looked down at Lu Lan with cold eyes. She sneered and said in a voice that only she and Lu Lan could hear, "Well, I pushed it, but did anyone see it? How can you prove that it was me who pushed it?" Lu Lan looked at Xia Huanhuan's appearance. Her heart was chilled. She kept backing away, shivering. I'm going to go to the commune to sue you. Sue you for beating and scolding your mother-in-law. Let's see how the commune criticizes you. Fight you. Xia Huanhuan smiled coldly and said in a sullen voice, "Go ahead and sue. I'm also going to go to the commune to sue you for colluding with that Fu Jiqing to fabricate bad things about me and ruin my reputation, just to force me to divorce, so that Li Zhan can marry Fu Jiqing." Lu Lan got anxious when she heard this. She went to the commune to file a complaint in order to ruin Xia Huanhuan's reputation, not to ruin Fu Jiqing's. If Xia Huanhuan really talked nonsense and implicated Fu Jiqing, then wouldn't Fu Jiqing and Li Zhan's marriage be ruined?
Don't.
I won't sue. Xia Huanhuan smiled, and it seemed that she had touched the old woman's sore spot. She continued, "Li Zhan came back on the wedding night to cancel the engagement. Was it that Fu Qingye who told you? Otherwise, Lu Lan would not have said it today. She must have said it a long time ago to provoke her. Also, she must have promised that after she and Li Zhan get married, she would honor you in this and that way, so you would be so hard-working to pass on her message, right?"
Well,
Let me guess, did she promise to take you to the city to enjoy a good life in the future? Lu Lan widened her eyes in shock.
Xia Huanhuan.
How did she know that? Xia Huanhuan looked at her and knew that she had guessed right. She always thought that Lu Lan was relatively smart in the countryside, but she didn't expect her to be so stupid. She was deceived by just a few words.
But
it's no wonder when you think about it. Lu Lan could indulge Li Qiaoqiao to have an affair with Su Jiyuan before getting married, wasn't it because Su Jiyuan was an educated youth who had the opportunity to return to the city? She probably dreamed of living a good life in the city. Fu Qingye used the things she thought about day and night as bait, and no matter how smart a person was, he would take the bait. She looked at Lu Lan coldly, tilted her head and said with a smile, "Mother-in-law, get up and go home quickly. If you stay in my yard any longer, what if you accidentally fall down and break your arm or a leg? Your wife, can't wash myself clean even if I jump into the Yellow River."
Lưu Lan suốt đời.
For the first time, she felt Xia Huanhuan was so scary. If she stayed any longer, she might really break her arms and legs. Looking at Lu Lan getting up in a mess and leaving in a hurry, Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but smile. She locked the door and went to settle the score with Fu Qingye. This White Lotus dare to use such despicable means. Don't blame her for revenge. She went out and walked towards the Educated Youth Point. The Educated Youth Point was at the edge of the village, not far from the back mountain. Not many villagers come here. Xia Huanhuan walked to the entrance of the Educated Youth Center and inadvertently saw Li Zhan standing face to face and talking with a woman next to a bush at the foot of the mountain that was not easy to be found. Xia Huanhuan's heart sank. She stopped and looked carefully. Who else could that woman be if not Fu Qingye? They were too far away to hear what they were saying, but Fu Qingye suddenly rushed over and hugged Li Zhan. Xia Huanhuan's eyes turned cold. But Li Zhan quickly pushed Fu Qingye to the ground, and then walked towards the mountain without looking back. Xia Huanhuan did not step forward, but stood there quietly waiting. After a while, Fu Qingye came over with red eyes. Seeing Xia Huanhuan standing at the entrance of the village, she was stunned for a moment, but still walked over with a forced smile and greeted, "Sister-in-law. Sister-in-law, what are you doing here? Are you looking for someone?" As long as Li Zhan doesn't divorce Xia Huanhuan, she can't fall out with Xia Huanhuan. Instead, she has to pretend to be a loving sister otherwise. She will definitely give people a chance to talk about her in the future. Xia Huanhuan sneered twice, suddenly raised her hand, and slapped her twice quickly and fiercely. Fu Qingye was stunned, covering her face that was immediately swollen like 5 fingers, with shock and anger flashing in her eyes, looking at Xia Huanhuan. "Xia Huanhuan, you.
Woo. Sister-in-law.
What right do you have to hit people?" Xia Huanhuan said coldly. "Don't call me sister-in-law all the time. I don't know you well. Keep pretending. If you dare to make up bad things about me and throw dirty water on me in front of my mother-in-law, I will hit you." Fu Qingye was stunned for a moment, then pretended to be stupid. "Sister-in-law, I don't understand what you are saying. What are you saying?" They were standing at the door of the Educated Youth Center. It was winter, and most of the educated youth were in the house. At this time, many people had come out of the house to watch the fun. Because Xia Huanhuan was so beautiful, she was also very famous in the eyes of these arrogant educated youth. As for Fu Qingye, she would be famous after today. Xia Huanhuan tilted her head and smiled. "Well, don't understand? Then let me remind you, you gossiped in front of my mother-in-law, saying that I went to the county town to steal men. Did you say that?" Fu Qingye was stunned. Don't country women value their reputation more than their lives? When they are gossiped about, they hide it and refuse to come out to explain, so they suffer in silence. Why didn't Xia Huanhuan play by the rules? She actually said it openly in front of so many people. Does she not want a reputation anymore?
Sister-in-law. No, I didn't. Xia Huanhuan is needed, no?
Do you dare to go to the commune with my mother-in-law and confront them in front of the secretary and everyone else? Anyway, my mother-in-law said that the dirty words must have come from your educated youth camp. If it wasn't you, then it must be other educated youth. I must find out today who made up the story about me. I want to see how you educated youths from the city can make progress in your thinking and be qualified to return to the city after you slander a country girl like me. When the qualification to return to the city was mentioned, all the educated youths were not happy. If this matter really got to the commune and caused them to lose the qualification to return to the city, everyone would hate Fu Qingye to death. Even if they didn't lose it, if a dignified educated youth made up dirty words about a young woman and spread them out, wouldn't all the educated youths in their educated youth camps be embarrassed? Wang Ling, who shared a room with Fu Qingye, immediately said, "Fu Qingye, I saw you with my own eyes heading towards the village with a few boxes of snacks. Do you still dare to say it wasn't you?" That's right. On the way back on the 5th day of the Chinese New Year, Su Jiyuan talked about this topic with another educated youth. She asked very carefully, "It must be her." Yes. On the way here, she kept asking about the wife's husband, Li Zhan. She must have fallen for the husband. So she went to the mother-in-law to discredit him and wanted to get promoted herself. How shameless. Several female educated youth rushed to Fu Qingye and said sternly, "Fu Qingye, you should take responsibility for your own actions and admit it. Don't implicate us." Fu Qingye saw that he had suddenly become the target of all the educated youth. He couldn't help but panic in his heart. He knew that if he didn't admit it, he would definitely be isolated and targeted in the future. He had to pretend to be weak, pitiful and aggrieved and cried, I also heard it from others."
I.
Hear it from others? How dare you spread what you heard from others? You are shameless, but the other educated youths still have dignity.
Bah.
You even went to school. What despicable things you did. An educated youth asked. Su Jiayuan and another educated youth said this on the road? Who was it? Stand up yourself. A rat spoils the whole pot. If it gets out, all the educated youth in our educated youth point will be blamed. I know, it's him. A male educated youth was pushed out. The educated youth was about to cry. I also heard it from Su Jiayuan. He said he saw it with his own eyes, but he couldn't tell anyone, so he gave me 3 yuan and asked me to say I saw it with my own eyes. All the educated youth looked at the male educated youth with disdain, and some of them even spat at him. At this time, the captain of the educated youth point said, Su Jiayuan saw it with his own eyes? You probably don't know yet? Su Jiayuan has been arrested by the public security forces in the county and Jincheng. I heard that the crime he committed in Jincheng was exposed. Can you believe what such a person says? But why did Su Jiayuan make up these rumors? It's because of that Li Qiao who keeps pestering him, and he can't get rid of her, so he holds a grudge against her. I heard him talking about Xia Huanhuan several times. I guess he has evil intentions and wants to separate the couple so that he can take advantage of the situation. The captain of the educated youth point said coldly, Okay, everyone stop arguing. If anyone dares to gossip about this matter again, don't blame me for reporting to the higher authorities and saying that the person's thinking is not up to standard. After that, the captain looked at Xia Huanhuan and discussed, Comrade Xia, we educated youth are wrong in this matter. We will actively carry out self-criticism and mutual criticism in the future and seriously help educate backward elements. Can you not make a fuss to the commune secretary? Xia Huanhuan saw that Fu Qingye was already famous in the educated youth point and would not have an easy life in the future. The source of the rumor that she had cheated on men in the county had also been found out, and it should not spread anymore. So she nodded and said, Since you said so, Captain, I will not pursue it this time. Thank you, Captain. After saying that, Xia Huanhuan glanced at Fu Qingye coldly and went home. On the way, she thought of what the educated youth captain said. Su Jiayuan was arrested? How could it be such a coincidence? It happened just now, and the matter in Tianjin City was exposed? But this is the best. No one will bother to investigate the matter of Su Jiayuan falling down and breaking his leg. The dried bamboo shoots that were dried yesterday were not dried thoroughly, and she didn't know when the weather would clear up again. She was afraid that they would get moldy if left for too long, so Xia Huanhuan took the bamboo shoots to the side of the stove to dry. Because she was absent-minded, her hands were scalded several times and blisters appeared. Xia Huanhuan didn't know why she felt a little powerless. She didn't even want to cool the scalded area with water and just let her fingers feel the burning pain, as if this could share the pain in another place. At noon, Xia Huanhuan didn't have the heart to cook, so she took the hot big meat buns from the space directly, boiled sweet potato millet porridge and fried cabbage and pork slices to deal with it. The 3 little guys kept talking to her while eating, talking about the snowball fight with friends in the village. Xiaowen, Xiaowu and other boys were playing snowball fights, but they accidentally broke the snowman built by Beibei, Huanhuan, Yingying and other girls, which made Beibei cry. Xiaowen called on the boys to build a snowman for them, but it was rejected because it was too ugly. Xia Huanhuan also listened with little interest. After lunch, the 3 kids followed the rules that Xia Huanhuan had set for them before, sat at the table obediently, took out textbooks, paper, and pens, and learned to write obediently. Xia Huanhuan thought about it and wanted to tell Li Zhan something when he came back. It was inconvenient for the 3 kids to be at home, so she called Xiaowen. Xiaowen, you don't have to write this afternoon. Take your brothers and sisters out to play. The 3 little brats were originally in Chao's camp, but their hearts were with Han, so of course they almost jumped for joy when they heard it. Xiao Wu was the most heartless and ran out first. Xiao Wen, however, was very sensible. As if she could see that Xia Huanhuan was in a bad mood, she asked worriedly, Mom, did someone make you angry? Tell me, I will avenge you. Xia Huanhuan listened to the heartwarming words of the children and couldn't help but sigh in her heart. It was your 4th uncle who made you angry. You can't beat him even if you tell him. She touched Xiao Wen's head gently and smiled. Mom is fine, just a little sleepy. I want to take a nap in the afternoon. You guys go out and play, and take good care of your younger brothers and sisters. Xiaowen took another look before going out to have fun. Xia Huanhuan put the food reserved for Li Zhan in the pot to warm it, and continued to bake bamboo shoots absent-mindedly. After an unknown amount of time, Li Zhan's voice suddenly came from outside. I'm back. Li Zhan put down the backpack and walked in, saying with a smile, We have a great harvest today. Not only did we dig a full basket of winter bamboo shoots, but we also caught a stupid roe deer. You can make it into bacon when the time comes. It will be delicious for a long time. Xia Huanhuan was startled and accidentally got scalded again. Her hand jumped back as if it had been electrocuted. As a result, the plate of roasted bamboo shoots tilted and fell to the ground with a clang. Li Zhan heard the sound and rushed over. He didn't care about the bamboo shoots and the stove. He grabbed Xia Huanhuan's hand and asked distressfully, What's wrong? Are you scalded? Why are you so careless? At a glance, she saw that her hand, which was originally white and slender like a jade onion, was scalded with several blisters of various sizes, and she couldn't help but gasp. Seeing that Li Zhan was so nervous about her, Xia Huanhuan felt even angrier and more painful. She wanted to pull her hand back angrily. Let go. It's okay. What do you mean it's okay? It's all scalded and blistered. Li Zhan frowned and scolded coldly, while pulling her out of the door in a domineering manner and using the snow in the yard to ice her. Xia Huanhuan was so angry that she wanted to hit him, but she was no match for him, so she could only be forcibly pulled outside with both hands, gritting her teeth and sulking. After using snow to cool her for a while, Li Zhan pulled Xia Huanhuan back into the house to sit on the kong, got up, and went to the small basket where Xia Huanhuan put her needle and thread items, took a needle, and burned the tip on the stove for disinfection. Xia Huanhuan had a bad premonition in her heart, and subconsciously put her hands behind her back. She didn't care about being angry with Li Zhan and looked up at him in horror. What are you doing? Li Zhan held the needle, with a serious face. Of course, it's to pick out the blisters. If you don't pick out the big blisters, it will be so bad. Xia Huanhuan shook her head desperately. I won't. It won't be so bad if it's not good. It will be better in a few days. Just thinking about the red-hot needle tip about to pierce her hand, Xia Huanhuan felt the pain in advance. She now began to think that she didn't feel any pain when she was scalded before, and even gave up on herself and allowed herself to be burned more. She was simply the biggest fool in the world. She was not the one who made the mistake. Why should she torture herself for a dog man? Li Zhan sighed and said, It's okay not to pick it open, but you have to bandage it, and you are not allowed to do anything else before it heals. Xia Huanhuan protested. Aren't it just a few blisters? Why are you so serious? And you're bandaging it? There are no bandages or gauze at home. Before she finished speaking, she saw Li Zhan had already taken out the bandages she had roughly prepared for home use. In terms of detective ability, I'm afraid no one can compare to Li Zhan. Xia Huanhuan was very bad-tempered. She couldn't help but be thankful that she had space. Otherwise, if she wanted to hide something, I'm afraid that this dog man would find it in minutes. But I guess he won't have a chance in the future. Don't make a fuss. If I bandage my hands with bandages, what will you do with all the winter bamboo shoots you dug? They will go bad if they are not made into dried bamboo shoots. Xia Huanhuan made an excuse. Li Zhan was very firm. Then pick the bubbles. You don't have to worry about the bamboo shoots. Even if your hands can move, you won't be allowed to touch them. I'll dry them. Xia Huanhuan. Li Zhan looked at her. Pick the bubbles or bandage them, it's your choice. Xia Huanhuan thought about her future plan, gritted her teeth, and said, Then pick the bubbles. Xia Huanhuan closed her eyes throughout the whole process and turned her head far away, not daring to look. She was afraid of injections, infusions, and blood draws before she traveled through time, and now picking blisters is a completely different matter. Fortunately, Li Zhan chose a few larger ones and pricked them to let the liquid inside flow out, and then disinfected them with alcohol. The pain made Xia Huanhuan cry. After cleaning the blisters, Li Zhan picked up the bandage. Xia Huanhuan's eyes widened. You re-cheating. You agreed not to bandage the blisters. Li Zhan rolled his eyes at her. Are you stupid? Broken blisters are more susceptible to infection than unbroken blisters, so of course they have to be bandaged. Xia Huanhuan. Li Zhan held back his laughter. Somehow, he suddenly found that it seemed fun to bully his little wife a little. I'll only bandage the places where the blisters are pricked, and not bandage other places. It will definitely not affect your daily use of things. Xia Huanhuan's resistance was ineffective. She was still suppressed, and her injuries were with abrupt bandages. It was indeed not fully wrapped, but several of her fingers were wrapped so tightly that they could not bend, which was no different from a full wrap. It didn't affect her movements, it was simply. Li Zhan met Xia Huanhuan's murderous gaze coldly and said, "See if you dare to be careless in the future." Xia Huanhuan took a deep breath and didn't bother with him for the time being. Are you hungry? There's food in the pot, go heat it up and eat it yourself. Only after eating a full meal can they talk calmly. Li Zhan smiled. My wife still loves me. Then he turned around and went to the kitchen to heat up the food. Xia Huanhuan looked at his back, and for some reason, the desolate feeling in her heart when she was waiting for him to come back just now came back.
Wife. Soon it won't be.
Today's meat buns are especially delicious. The filling is yellow, not like meat, but tastes better than meat. Huanhuan, what's the filling of today's meat buns? He couldn't help asking. Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, and then felt a little guilty. She forgot that the one she took out today was crab roe, and the three little guys probably couldn't tell the difference, and they wouldn't care about the filling as long as it tasted good. Li Zhan would definitely be able to tell that it's not an ordinary meat filling.
Oh, it is.
It's tofu and fish filling, the fish you caught with the kids in the river last time. The fish meat is not yellow either. It should. It should be fish eggs mixed in.
Oh.
It's quite delicious. Li Zhan concluded, ending the topic. After lunch, Li Zhan went to wash the dishes, then returned to the room and asked, Where are the three brats? Aren't they supposed to ride at home in the afternoon? Xia Huanhuan looked at Li Zhan, then took a deep breath and said, Li Zhan, I have something to tell you. Li Zhan's brows wrinkled slightly. He felt that Xia Huanhuan was in a bad mood since he came back and seemed a little listless. Now he is still so serious. What does he want to say to her? Is she going to confess to him that she actually lied to him yesterday? She did not stay at home all the time, but went into the mountains, and it was indeed she who pushed Su Jiyuan down the mountain? Li Zhan had been digging bamboo shoots in the mountains for a whole morning and had figured it out. Regardless of whether Xia Huanhuan lied to him or not, and whether she ignored her own safety and dealt with Su Jiyuan alone, as long as she didn't say it, he planned to pretend not to know. If she wanted to confess, he wouldn't blame her. It was just that he didn't give her enough sense of security. Otherwise, why would she go to Su Jiyuan to seek revenge on her own? Xia Huanhuan looked at Li Zhan and said seriously, Li Zhan, let's get a divorce. Li Zhan stared at Xia Huanhuan in astonishment and was stunned. He also thought that if she would confess and be treated leniently, he would be more generous, look at her gently, and tell her he already knew everything. Forget it this time, but don't lie to him again, don't put yourself in danger again. He will protect her from now on. As a result, let alone confessing, she was planning to turn the table and stop living with him. He originally thought that Su Jiyuan was deliberately throwing mud at him and didn't take it seriously.
But now,
I can't help but feel a little doubtful.
Could it be that
Huanhuan really fell in love with another man while he was not at home? Otherwise, why would she suddenly want to divorce him for no reason? Thinking of this possibility, Li Zhan felt very unhappy. He was so jealous that he wanted to catch Xia Huanhuan, the heartless girl, and interrogate her immediately. Xia Huanhuan thought he was embarrassed to agree immediately, so she said, You don't have to worry. I was the one who asked for a divorce, not you. Just agree to it. It won't affect your future. Of course, she filed for divorce not to help Lu Lan and Fu Qingye achieve their goals. Otherwise, she wouldn't have taught Lu Lan a lesson and exposed Fu Qingye in public. She made this decision after careful and objective consideration. Although the soul in this body has now become her, in the eyes of people of this era, she is still an illiterate arranged wife from the countryside. Although Li Zhan also came from a rural background, he is now a young officer with a military rank in the army. Moreover, the last time she went to Beijing to visit a patient, the Fu family, who obviously had a strong background and was very powerful, obviously also valued Li Zhan very much. In time, Li Zhan's future will be limitless. Why would a man like this be willing to acknowledge and accept an arranged marriage arranged for him by his ignorant mother from the countryside? Li Zhan rushed back on the wedding night in order to break off the engagement. Although it was very hurtful, if you judge from an outsider's perspective, it was human nature and completely reasonable. Unfortunately, he returned too late, and the arranged bride had already married. Considering her clean reputation, the man did not deny her relationship with him. Instead, he formally registered his marriage with her in front of the commune secretary and obtained a marriage certificate. Such responsibility is truly commendable. Would be fine if she didn't know the truth, but now that she knows it, can she still cling to me and beg me to let go? Moreover, although Lulan is a worthless person, what she said before actually makes sense. Her apparent identity was just that of a country woman. Although she had a portable space and billions of supplies, these were things she could not bring to the table and talk about, and she even had to hide them from Li Zhan. In other words, her status and position, apart from not being a burden to Li Zhan in terms of her background, may not be of any benefit to his future. On the contrary, if Li Zhan had married Fu Qingye, well, no, Fu Qingye is not a good person, so he cannot be married. If he had married a wife with a good background and a good family background in Beijing, then his life would be much smoother and more complete. To put it more bluntly, in the eyes of outsiders, she, a country girl arranged to marry, is the flaw in Li Zhan's perfect life. In Li Zhan's eyes, I'm afraid it's about the same. After all, Li Zhan had no intention of marrying her from the beginning, but he treated her so well later, probably just out of his responsibility as a husband. She should not get the wrong idea. She is too self-deprecating and deserves sympathy. Before you get deeper into trouble, get a divorce and let both of you go your separate ways. From then on, he went to marry his beautiful, wealthy girl from Beijing. She sold supplies to buy a courtyard house and went to college. She became the richest woman, reached the peak of her life, and was beautiful alone. That's good too. Let's not waste our time. Li Zhen. As long as he agrees, it's fine. When did he say he wanted a divorce? He dotes on her and protects her so much. How could he behave like he wants a divorce? Also, it won't affect his future? He speaks so righteously. Is he trying to cover up for the man in that county? After all, anyone who dares to destroy a military marriage will go to jail. Humph. What kind of man is this? He can make her so desperate. He even dares to divorce her military marriage.
Why?
Li Zhan asked in a cold voice, suppressing the anger in his heart. Xia Huan was stunned. Why was he asking for the reason? Shouldn't he have happily agreed, and then burst into tears of gratitude that she had taken the initiative to end the arranged marriage and set him free? There's no reason. I just don't want to drag you down anymore. Really? You don't have to worry. I'll tell everyone in the future that I was the one who filed for divorce, and I'll never let you take the blame. In the future, you can still marry a city girl. Well, having said that, I still want to remind you that you can marry anyone, but don't marry Fu Qingye. She's not a good person and is not worthy of you. Li Zhan was so angry that he almost laughed. It seems like you have been considering divorcing him for a long time. Even whether he should marry someone from the city or the countryside when he remarries, and who he should marry and who he should not marry, has been decided for him. What about you? After divorcing me, are you planning to marry again? Who are you going to marry? Li Zhan asked with a hint of gritted teeth, a dangerous storm brewing in his clear and dark eyes. Xia Huan was stunned by the question and didn't notice Li Zhan's tone for a moment. Marry again? Her mind was a mess, and she kept thinking about Li Zhan's position, who Li Zhan should marry after the divorce, and about herself. It seemed like she had not had time to think about anything. I think she will get married again when she meets a man she likes in the future. If she doesn't meet him, then it's no big deal for her to live on her own. However, Li Zhan probably asked this because he was worried that as a divorced woman, her life would be difficult in the future, right? Xia Huanhuan nodded and promised solemnly, "Of course, I will marry again. You don't have to feel guilty." Before she finished her words, Xia Huanhuan suddenly realized that Li Zhan had come very close to her without her knowing. He raised one arm, and with a snap, he pressed it heavily against the wall, trapping her between him and the wall. Well, are we talking about divorce?
Why?
Does she seem angry again? She is so noble and upright that she sacrifices herself to help him. Isn't that wrong? Li Zhan looked down at her, his beautiful phoenix eyes full of jealousy. Will you marry again? You're in such a hurry to divorce me. Maybe you already have someone chosen? Is it the man from that county town? Xia Huanhuan suddenly widened her eyes and looked at him. A man from the county town? That rumor reached his ears? She remembered that when she went to the educated youth camp to settle accounts with Fu Qingye, she saw Fu Qingye throwing himself into his arms.
Haha.
Did Fu Qingye tell you? Or did your mother tell you? Do you believe what they said? Xia Huanhuan looked at him straight and asked. Her tone was cold and broken. She was extremely angry. When Li Zhan saw Xia Huanhuan's hurt expression, he suddenly came to his senses and realized how hurtful the words he had just said were. Who the Hades is Su Jiayuan? Isn't everything he says just? He was so jealous that his blood boiled and he lost his mind. He actually started to doubt and said such nonsense without thinking. Trickle. Get lost. I just have a man in the county town, so what? Get lost, I'll go and marry him right away. Also, if you want to marry Fu Qingye, just go ahead and marry her. You're still hugging and kissing her, and it's hard to explain. How dare you doubt me? Li Zhan, you rascal. Xia Huanhuan was so angry that she didn't care about her burned and bandaged hands and pushed Li Zhan's chest, punching and kicking him. Li Zhan hurriedly grabbed Xia Huanhuan's wrists and pulled her into the air to prevent her hands from touching anything. Unfortunately, he couldn't do anything about her feet, which were kicked several times and made her grimace in pain. He didn't care and said anxiously, "Wife, it hurts. Your hand is still injured. Soon the other blisters will burst too. Don't you feel pain? It's all my fault. I'm a rascal. I speak without thinking. Who told you to divorce me right away? Am I not anxious?" Xia Huanhuan couldn't break free, but was held tightly in his arms. She became even angrier. Humph. What a joke. I want to divorce you. Why are you so anxious? You should be happy. You finally got what you wanted. Li Zhan no longer had any temper.
This.
She kept saying that she wanted to divorce him and that he should remarry. Well, not Fu Qingye, and she wanted to remarry, so how come in the end, it seemed like everything was his fault? Why should I be happy? Is it me who wants a divorce?
Li Zhan said unhappily.
Xia Huanhuan looked at him and sneered. Ha! You dare to say that you came back on your wedding night not to cancel the engagement? You are pretending to be so high and mighty.
Li Zhan.
This is the crux of today's incident. Li Zhan thought about it and decided to talk about the matter openly. He looked at Xia Huanhuan and said seriously, "Huanhuan, I don't deny that I rushed back that day to stop you from marrying me. You are right, I don't want to marry a wife I have never even met. But now I, Li Zhan, have already decided that you, Xia Huanhuan, are my wife. Unless I die, don't even think about me agreeing to a divorce." Xia Huanhuan was stunned, and then her face started to burn. She couldn't help but look away. If you do and agree, then don't agree.
What are you talking about, Death?
How unlucky. Seeing her like this, Li Zhan knew that she would not mention divorce again, and he couldn't help but feel a little relieved. Finally got it back. Xia Huanhuan was also a little dazed. After all this fuss, it just ended up like this. It seems quite embarrassing. No, I have to say something to get back my face. Otherwise, Li Zhan will laugh at me to death in the future. By the way, you haven't explained yet why you were hugging Fu Qingye? Doesn't she know that you are married? You should talk less to her in the future, Xia Huanhuan said angrily. If she hadn't seen Li Zhan push Fu Qingye away immediately, she wouldn't have forgiven him so easily.
Li Zhan said seriously, "Yes.
Don't worry, I have made it clear to her. I will not have any contact with her anymore. She couldn't help but purse her lips and smiled. Are you jealous? Xia Huanhuan's face immediately turned red to her ears, and she said stubbornly, Who? Who is jealous?
Right.
That's right. It's almost time to prepare dinner. The kids should be back soon. Having said that, he walked around Li Zhan and headed towards the door. Li Zhan, however, took a step ahead, blocked the door, and bolted it in the blink of an eye.
Wife.
Li Zhan looked at Xia Huanhuan with burning eyes, his voice low and hoarse. Wife. Xia Huanhuan looked at him strangely and said with a smile, Why are you locking the door in broad daylight? Get out of the way. What if the kids come back and can't get in? As he said, he pushed Li Zhan aside and was about to open the door. Li Zhan was a little depressed. His wife was usually so smart. Why was she so slow in this aspect? He suddenly picked up Xia Huanhuan and threw her on the Kong without saying anything. Xia Huanhuan exclaimed, You. What are you doing? Li Zhan didn't wait for her to get up. He had already gone up, grabbed her two slender wrists and pressed them to her head and struggled with the buttons on her clothes. He leaned over and whispered in her ear with a smile, We are husband and wife. What do you think? Xia Huanhuan reacted and forgot to struggle. She asked in astonishment, But
you
are not. Li Zhan had already taken off her cotton coat. While continuing to deal with the inner shirt and belly band, he asked absent-mindedly without raising his head, Not what?
Not just
that? Xia Huanhuan didn't know why she couldn't say it. The village had spread like that. How could he have never heard of it? Li Zhan's interest was also piqued. He stopped and looked up at Xia Huanhuan. What is that? Explain it clearly. Why are you playing dumb? Xia Huanhuan was angry. She was embarrassed to say it. Wasn't it because she was afraid of hurting his self-esteem as a man? He dared to yell at her? That means you can't do that with your wife if you're injured. You can't have children. Xia Huanhuan said unhappily. Li Zhan. Li Zhan. Xia Huanhuan saw that Li Zhan didn't say anything, thinking that his self-esteem was really hurt, and couldn't help but regret why she said it so bluntly just now.
Well.
Don't be too sad. When medical technology is advanced in the future, maybe it can be cured. As he said, he didn't forget to pat Li Zhan's chest to comfort him. Li Zhan. So his wife, this has never doubted at all? Always treated him as a disabled person? Seeing that he still didn't speak, Xia Huanhuan felt a little panicked and carefully moved from under Li Zhan to the Kong, while continuing to comfort. You. Don't be too shocked. This is not a secret of yours, the whole village. No, the whole commune knows it, and everyone hasn't discriminated against you, right? I won't discriminate against you either. Well, I'll make you 2 bowls of chicken soup to drink in the evening to nourish you. Li Zhan. Li Zhan looked at Xia Huanhuan with gnashing teeth. Is this how his wife comforts people? Everyone in the commune knows? We won't discriminate against you? And drink a bowl of chicken soup to replenish your body? If he really does that, can chicken soup alone replenish his body? When Xia Huanhuan slipped to the Kong, Li Zhan easily pulled her back, pulled off her belly band, leaned over and bit her as if punishing her. He grabbed her earlobe, showed his sharp white teeth and smiled. Your man can't do it. That thing? I'll let you see if your man can do it. The days are short in winter. It was dark at around 5 in the afternoon. Xiaowen and Xiaowu finally ended their afternoon snowball fight with Secretary Zhao's grandsons Chaoyang and Qiming, and Beibei also went home hand in hand with Huanhuan and Yingying. When they arrived at the door, the 3 little guys found that the door was not locked, but they couldn't push it open. Brother, is Mom not at home? Beibei looked up and asked Xiaowen. You are stupid. The door was locked from the inside and can't be pushed open. If Mom is not at home, who is at home? Xiaowu corrected his sister with his hands on his hips. Beibei pouted unconvinced. Xiaowen knocked on Xiaowu's head and said like a little adult, Xiaowu, don't bully your sister. Mom should be sleeping in the house. Let's not make noise and sit at the door and wait for a while. So the 3 little kids sat in a row on the steps in front of the door, very neat and well-behaved. Inside the house, Xia Huanhuan kicked Li Zhan angrily and said in a low voice, That's enough. The children are back. They will get cold if they sit outside again. Li Zhan couldn't help but TSK and whispered in her ear, "It's okay to let them freeze for a while. Let me do it again." He has been around his wife these days, but he can only watch but not eat. Isn't it all because of these three little rascals? It's not easy to get what he wanted. 1 or 2 times is not enough. It's not unfair to let them freeze for a while longer. Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan. Are you really my fourth uncle? Are you a vicious stepfather? Get out of here quickly, or I'll beat him up. Li Zhan sighed resentfully, and just as he was about to get up, Zhou Qiuhe's voice suddenly came from outside the door. Xiaowen, Xiao, Bebe? Why are you sitting at the door and not going in? It's so cold outside.
Sure.
The three little guys all raised their index fingers to their mouths, signaling Zhou Qiuhe to lower their voices. Xiaowen whispered, "Mom is sleeping in the room. Aunt San, please keep your voice down." Bebe also lowered his voice and said in a baby voice, "Don't wake up, Mom." Zhou Qiuhe was stunned, and then couldn't help laughing. "You're quite filial, huh? But sleeping with the door locked in broad daylight? I always feel something is wrong. Where is your fourth uncle?" Fourth uncle went up the mountain to dig bamboo shoots. Inside the house, Li Zhan sighed resentfully and was about to get up, but was suddenly held tightly by Xia Huanhuan. Li Zhan blinked and looked at her, laughing softly. "Aren't you going to get up?" Xia Huanhuan was so angry that she wanted to kick him again. Just now, there were only 3 brats outside, and she could have made excuses. Now Zhou Qiuhe is outside. She and Li Zhan closed the door in broad daylight and went out together. Wouldn't Zhou Qiuhe laugh at her again? This rascal is probably doing it on purpose, right? Li Zhan smiled triumphantly again, leaned over and bit her lips and whispered, "This is what you promised." Xia Huanhuan was depressed. What did she promise?
Sure.
Keep your voice down. Aren't you afraid that people outside will hear it? Xia Huanhuan. This rascal. Zhou Qiuhe heard the movement in the house and looked at the closed door suspiciously. Then she said to the 3 kids, "You should go to Aunt San's house with me first. It's so cold outside. Look at your little faces that are all red from the cold." Then she took the 3 kids home. Li Zhan boiled some water for Xia Huanhuan to clean up. Xia Huanhuan was very puzzled. How did the rumor about Li Zhan's incompetence spread? Li Zhan glanced at her and said, "You are so stupid. You didn't doubt the rumor you heard from others? Do I look like I have suffered that kind of injury? He looks like a man among men in every way." Xia Huanhuan glanced at him and blushed. "Who said I didn't doubt it? But I'm a living person lying next to you, and you didn't react at all. How can I not believe it?"
Li Zhan.
But he was a little happy. "So you've actually been looking forward to me. If I'd known earlier, I would have been a little more domineering a few days earlier." Xia Huanhuan's face was red and almost bleeding. She raised her hand to hit him and said unhappily, Who's been looking forward to it? Don't be so conceited." Li Zhan grabbed her hand and smiled. Okay. You haven't been looking forward to it. I've been looking forward to it." When Li Zhan went to Zhou Qiuhe's house to pick up the 3 kids, they had already eaten. Zhou Qiuhe asked with concern, "Is Huanhuan okay?" "I heard from the kids that they have been sleeping for the whole afternoon." Li Zhan smiled and said, "Well, it's okay, just a little tired, just rest more." Zhou Qiuhe heard that and became more worried. "Is it really okay? How about I go and see?" Li Zhan quickly stopped him and said, "It's really okay. Sister-in-law, if you go to see her, she will be embarrassed." Zhou Qiuhe was stunned for a moment. She just went to see her. Why should she be embarrassed? But she didn't go in the end. When the 3 kids got home, they immediately ran to the Kong and stood in a row, 3 pairs of worried eyes staring at Xia Huanhuan. "Mom, your face is so red. Are you sick?" Xia Huanhuan glared at Li Zhan and sat up despite the pain in her waist and back and said with a smile, "Mom is fine. Have you eaten? What did you eat?"
Yes.
"I had dumplings stuffed with vermicelli and pork at Aunt San's house." Xia Huanhuan nodded after hearing this. It seems that the food in Zhou Qiuhe's house has also improved. After a while, Li Zhan came in with hot chicken soup and said with a smile, Come and drink chicken soup to replenish your body. The wild pheasant with tender meat, wolfberry, wild mushrooms, and newly dug winter bamboo shoots, and a little salt sprinkled on it is very delicious. Xia Huanhuan. Why did she want to throw the bowl at this rascal so much? Li Zhan stopped when he saw that it was going well and smiled. It's hot. Let it cool down before drinking. He then served a bowl to the 3 kids and himself and asked them to wash and go to bed after they finished drinking, and then he went to bed. This time he was not as restrained as before and directly and domineeringly took her into his arms. Xia Huanhuan struggled, but failed to break free, so she couldn't help but whispered, "Let go, they will see us." Li Zhan, however, domineeringly hugged her tighter, resting his chin on her neck, and his warm breath blew against her ears. She couldn't help but struggle again. "Don't move," Li Zhan said in a hoarse voice. Xia Huanhuan was a little angry. Why should she listen to him? Then she suddenly realized something and didn't dare to move. The next morning, Li Zhan got up early. He first did some physical training like one-handed push-ups and pull-ups by climbing a branch of a tree in the yard according to the habits he had developed over the years in the army. Then he went to make breakfast. He made cornmeal and sweet potato porridge. The sweet potatoes were sweet, fragrant, and sticky white-hearted sweet potatoes. He heated up a few cabbage, vermicelli, and meat buns that Xia Huanhuan had steamed 2 days ago. He soaked some dried radish in warm water, mixed it with sesame oil, and made a pickled vegetable dish to go with rice. He heated up the leftover chicken soup from last night, and breakfast was ready. Li Zhan went into the house to take a look. Seeing that Xia Huanhuan hadn't woken up yet, he walked lightly. The 3 little ones woke up early, rubbing their eyes sleepily. Just as they were about to call Mom, Li Zhan covered her mouth. Li Zhan motioned them not to make noise and dressed them gently, carried them out of bed one by one, and asked them to have breakfast first. Xia Huanhuan had been tossed around a lot from yesterday afternoon to evening, so she slept a little more deeply. She vaguely heard the movement beside her, but didn't wake up, just turned over and continued to sleep. Li Zhan saw that her hair was loose, the corners of her eyes were slightly red, and there was still the spring of yesterday. His eyes deepened unconsciously, and he couldn't help leaning over and pecked her on the lips. He tucked the corners of the quilt for her, forced himself to go out for breakfast, and then began to clean up yesterday in the mountains. The roe deer hunted, and the winter bamboo shoots. This time they hunted an adult roe deer, which weighed about 50 kilograms. Li Zhan first peeled off the roe deer's skin completely, and then cleaned the internal organs and offal. After washing the meat several times, he cut it into large pieces and then smeared salt on it and smoked it into bacon, which was probably enough for the 4 of them to eat for a few months. He was about to return to the team, and he didn't know when he would be back next time. Li Zhan was thinking about going into the mountains again before leaving and hunting a few more roe deer to prepare more for them. After processing the roe deer, he started to dry the bamboo shoots. It is better to peel the winter bamboo shoots first, cut them in half with a knife, put them into boiling water to cook off the grass smell, and then cut them into pieces, which can be baked together on the fire of bacon. The kids didn't even say they were going out to play, but surrounded Li Zhan excitedly, watching him handle the roe deer meat, and they thought their 4th uncle was really amazing. After watching for a while, he ran into the inner room quietly and leaned on the Kong to see if Xia Huanhuan was awake. Although she was very young, she was also very busy. Xia Huanhuan was finally awakened by the noise, and just when she was about to sit up, her body that was about to fall apart immediately clamored to accuse her of the inhuman treatment she received yesterday. Xia Huanhuan's little face wrinkled into a ball, and she couldn't help but recall the scene of yesterday, and her face burned uncontrollably to the tip of her ears again. Which rascal spread the rumor in the village? She was not prepared at all. But thinking about Li Zhan's attitude yesterday, it seemed that it was useless to prepare in advance. She begged for mercy and shouted until her voice was hoarse, but the rascal did not stop to show mercy. Li Zhan heard the noise in the inner room and came in to see Xia Huanhuan holding her waist with a cute face wrinkled. He couldn't help but grin and said, "Are you awake? Can you get up? Do you want me to help you put on your clothes?" Xia Huanhuan wanted to hit him with a pillow, but unfortunately her arms were so sore that she had no strength, so she could only say, "Get out." After getting dressed and having breakfast, Xia Huanhuan looked at the fire in the yard where the meat was being smoked, and the white and tender winter bamboo shoots spread out on the racks and drying together, and was a little dumbfounded. Aren't men of this era quite chauvinistic, stretching out their hands for clothes and opening their mouths for food? How come Li Zhan knows everything? After hearing her question, Li Zhan glanced at her with disdain and said, "Do you think I've been a soldier for almost 10 years in vain? This little job is just playing house compared to our experience of survival in the wild." Xia Huanhuan saw him showing off in front of her, rolled her eyes at him, and said, "That's enough. I told you you're fat, but you're out of breath." Li Zhan grinned and said, "I'll go into the mountain later and see if I can catch some more prey." Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment and said, "Didn't we just catch this road deer? It's enough to eat for a while. Why are you in such a hurry to go?" Besides, she had so many supplies in her space, so she really had no shortage of food. Li Zhan did not explain and smiled. "It won't be a problem if it's a little more." He looked at her again, blinked his eyes, and lowered his voice to tease. Or, "It wasn't enough yesterday, and you want me to stay with you at home?" Xia Huanhuan immediately felt like a kettle with boiling water, and she was so embarrassed that she was smoking. "Not enough. Hurry up and leave. It's annoying." Li Zhan was not in a hurry to leave. He took her hand and took off the bandage she had bandaged yesterday and checked it. The blister